The sky's truth, a burning fate. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what it truly means? For ages, people believed something simple. Our Earth was the center of everything. The sun, the stars, the moon, they all seemed to circle us. It felt right, like we were the special heart of the universe. But sometimes, what feels right, what we've always been taught, isn't the whole truth. Imagine someone stepping forward, quietly but with deep conviction, saying, "No, it's actually the Earth that moves around the sun." This was a dangerous idea. It could challenge the world, and the person speaking it, in a big way. Think of it this way. Maybe you've always believed that studying one specific way is the only path to good grades. Everyone says so. Your friends do it. It seems true. Then, a teacher shows you a completely different method. It feels strange, maybe a little scary, because it challenges what you thought was true. It takes real courage to try that new way, to trust something different. The man who spoke this truth about the sky was Galileo. He saw the universe with new eyes, through a powerful telescope. His observations painted a different picture, going against common belief. But for speaking this difficult truth, a truth that seemed to burn away old ideas, he was met with fear. He was pressured to deny what he knew in his heart was real. It makes you think, doesn't it, about how brave someone must be to stand by their truth, even when it means facing huge problems. It reminds us that searching for real truth, even when it's uncomfortable or changes everything we knew, is a journey worth taking. Sometimes, the brightest light of truth can feel like a burning flame, but it also lights the way for everyone who comes after. A question asked, a life given. Have you ever wondered why some questions feel so big? Like a puzzle you just have to solve, or a secret you can't ignore. For some people, these questions aren't just curious thoughts. They become their entire purpose, a quiet whisper that turns into a roaring fire inside them. They chase after answers with their whole being. These are the thinkers who dared to ask, why when everyone else said because. They lived in times when new ideas were scary, when old beliefs were held tight like a precious blanket. But the hunger for truth, for understanding, burned too brightly in them. They wanted to know how the stars moved, what justice truly meant, or how our minds really work. And sometimes, the journey to find those answers was a lonely, dangerous path. It's a bit like a deep-sea diver, isn't it? They go down into the dark, unknown ocean, facing huge pressures, just to find a new creature or understand a hidden coral reef. They don't go because it's easy. They go because the mystery of the deep calls to them. For these thinkers, the deep was the mystery of the world or human existence itself. They kept pushing, going deeper into difficult thoughts, even if it meant risking everything. So, when we talk about a life given for a question, it doesn't always mean a sudden, dramatic ending. Often, it means a life completely dedicated, completely poured out, in the tireless search for truth. It's about a deep commitment, a quiet courage that few possess. They gave their days, their energy, their very breath, to chasing an answer, hoping to bring a little more light into our shared world. Their lives remind us how powerful a simple question can be, and how far curiosity can take us. The walls of belief, they fell. Have you ever thought something was absolutely true, like, no doubt about it? And then, what if someone showed you it wasn't? What if they proved you wrong, even if it meant a lot of trouble for them? This is about those big moments in history, when what people held as solid truth began to crack. For a long time, people believed the earth was flat. They thought if you sailed too far, you'd fall right off the edge. This was a solid belief, like a giant wall built around their minds. But then, brave thinkers, explorers, and mathematicians looked closer. They saw the curved horizon. They studied the stars. Slowly, that wall began to show cracks. Think about Galileo. In his time, almost everyone believed the sun went around the earth. That was the truth taught everywhere. But Galileo, with his new telescope, saw something different. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter, showing that not everything revolved around our planet. This discovery shook up everything people thought they knew. It helped show the earth actually orbits the sun. It's a bit like when you're younger and you believe all grown-ups know everything. Then, as you get a little older, you realize they make mistakes, too. That understanding changes how you see the world, and how you see them. It doesn't mean you stop respecting them, but your wall of belief about their perfect knowledge crumbles a little. These thinkers faced so much. Sometimes, people didn't want to hear the new truth. It felt scary, like pulling the rug out from under them. But here's the thing. Those walls, those old ideas, had to fall for us to see clearly. They fell not to be difficult, but because new truth shone too brightly to ignore. And because of their courage, our world grew bigger, richer, and closer to what's real. It reminds us that sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that truly set us free, standing for what's right. Even then, imagine believing in an idea so much, you'd give everything for it. What does it mean to truly stand for something, even when the world around you tells you you're wrong? This is a question many thinkers faced long ago, and even today. For centuries, most people believed the world worked in certain ways. These beliefs were often tied to powerful leaders or old traditions. To challenge them was a really big deal. It wasn't just about winning an argument, it was about possibly losing your freedom, or even your life. But some people, in their hearts and minds, saw a different truth. They felt it in their bones. They knew, deep down, that something wasn't quite right with the common understanding. Here's the thing. Think about a time you worked on a group project, and everyone had the wrong answer to a question, but you knew you had the right one. Maybe it was a math problem, or figuring out how to fix something. It's hard to speak up, right? Especially if you're the only one, and everyone else is so sure. You might feel a little nervous, or worry about what others will think. But if you truly know you're right, there's a quiet strength that tells you to say it anyway. For some thinkers, that feeling was about the very nature of the universe, or about what it means to be good, or how people should be treated. Their quiet certainty became a powerful voice. They understood that sometimes the hardest path is the one you take when you're standing alone, holding on to a truth no one else can see yet. Their stories aren't just about facts. They're about the deep courage it takes to protect a fragile idea, to nurture it, even when the world pushes back. And that quiet courage echoes through time, reminding us to listen to that inner knowing, a dream that echoed forever. What if a dream wasn't just something you saw when you slept, but a big, shining idea that burned so brightly inside you, it felt more real than anything else? For some people, these dreams weren't about personal gain or comfort. They were about truth, about justice, or about understanding the world in a whole new way. These were ideas so powerful, they shaped entire lives, even if those lives ended too soon because of them. Throughout history, there have been brave thinkers who held on to these kinds of dreams. They weren't just thinking for themselves. They were searching for answers that could help all of us. Sometimes, their dreams went completely against what everyone else believed was true or right. And here's the thing. Holding on to a dream like that, one that challenges the world, can be incredibly dangerous. It can mean facing loneliness, misunderstanding, or even death. But these thinkers believed it was worth it, because the truth of their dream felt so essential. Think about a beautiful song. One person writes it, maybe in a quiet room, with just a guitar and a quiet hope. But that song, that melody, and those words, can travel across countries. It can be sung by millions of voices for years and years. It starts as a small, personal creation, but its echo lasts forever. It's the same with these thinkers and their profound dreams. Their deep beliefs, their powerful ideas, didn't vanish when they did. Instead, they became echoes. They resonated through time, sparking new questions and inspiring new actions. So here's what happened. Slowly, gently, their dreams pushed the world forward. It teaches us that even one person, with a powerful true dream, can leave a mark that lasts. A quiet strength, a lasting hope, is found in the idea that a deep truth, once shared, can never truly die. It just keeps echoing. The quiet walk to freedom's end. Have you ever felt so strongly about something, so deeply in your bones, that you just couldn't give it up? For some thinkers throughout history, that feeling was so powerful, it led them on a quiet walk. This walk wasn't just to the end of their lives, but to the end of a long journey of truth. It was a path chosen out of deep loyalty to what they understood about the world. These were people who believed in an idea, a truth, so much that they couldn't pretend it wasn't real, even if it meant great danger. They held on to their thoughts, their discoveries, their ways of seeing the world, like a precious, fragile flame within them. To deny that truth, for them, would have been to deny themselves entirely. Think about it like this. Imagine you've worked hard on a science project, and you discovered something amazing. You're sure of your results. But then, someone tells you to lie about your findings, to say something different because it's easier, or because it makes them happy. You know the truth, and to deny it would feel wrong, like denying all that hard work and honest discovery. For thinkers like Socrates, who chose to drink poison rather than stop teaching what he believed was right, or Galileo, who faced punishment for saying the earth moved around the sun, it was a similar feeling, but on a much grander scale. Their stand wasn't just for a scientific fact or a philosophical idea. It was for the very freedom to think, to question, and to speak what they knew was true in their hearts. Even if it challenged powerful people, their final steps were not steps of defeat. They were quiet, brave steps. Steps into a kind of freedom no one could take away. Because even as their lives ended, their ideas, their courage, and their quiet insistence on truth continued to echo through time. They remind us that sometimes the most powerful way to live is to truly stand for what you believe, to guard that inner flame. It's a heavy thought, but it also carries a quiet kind of beauty, doesn't it? Words against the crown, a sharp blade. Have you ever felt like a quiet thought inside you could be incredibly powerful? Sometimes words are like that. For centuries, kings, emperors, and rulers held all the power. Their word was law, and to question it risked everything. But imagine someone daring to speak against that law, challenging the crown itself. That took immense, quiet courage. These brave thinkers weren't holding actual swords. They held ideas, shaping them into words. And those words, sharp and precise, could cut through old lies and unfairness like a blade. They exposed what was wrong, not with violence, but with truth. This was a dangerous path. Speaking out against authority could mean prison, exile, or worse. Yet they spoke, they wrote, they believed their thoughts were too important to stay silent. Think about a time you saw something unfair happening. Maybe in your classroom, you felt that urge to say something, even if it felt scary. It takes courage to speak up, doesn't it? Even if it's just telling a friend gently that their actions aren't kind. Those small moments, when you choose words over silence, echo what these thinkers did. They knew an unsaid truth weighs heavily, but a spoken truth, even at risk, can begin to lighten the darkness. Their words were like invisible seeds, planted in difficult ground. They might not have seen the full harvest in their lifetimes, but those seeds grew. They inspired others. They sparked revolutions of thought. It's humbling to consider a single, brave sentence, spoken or written long ago, still has the power to remind us what freedom means, and the deep cost it often carries. It makes you wonder about the quiet, sharp power of your own words, and what truths they might one day help unfold. The fire of conscience, unsnuffed. Have you ever felt that quiet, strong voice inside you, telling you what's truly right, even when it's hard or even scary? That feeling is your conscience, like a small, steady flame within. It's a part of us that knows good from bad, truth from lies. And for some thinkers, this inner fire burned so brightly, nothing could put it out. Not threats, not pain, not even the fear of death itself. They chose to stand by what they believed, proving their point not just with words, but with their lives. Throughout history, we see this light. Think of people who risked everything to speak an uncomfortable truth. They might have been mocked, imprisoned, or worse, but their conscience wouldn't let them stay silent. It's like a deep inner knowing that screams, "This is wrong," or "This is true, and it must be said." This isn't just a feeling, it's a moral compass, guiding us when the path ahead is dark or confusing. It's that deep conviction, that feeling of what's right, that pushes us to act. Imagine you see someone making fun of another student. That little voice inside you starts to speak up, maybe saying, "That's not fair." Even if you feel nervous or worried about what others might think, your conscience nudges you to do something. It's like when a tiny seed, pushed by an unseen force, breaks through hard ground to find the light. That inner strength, that stubbornness to do good, comes from this powerful, unyielding conscience. It's a reminder that some truths are just too important to ignore. So, when we talk about those who died proving a point, we're really talking about people whose conscience was an unyielding flame. It was the core of who they were. Their lives and their deaths show us that this inner light, this sense of right and wrong, is incredibly precious. It's a gift that helps us stay true to ourselves, no matter what storms rage around us. It teaches us that some things are worth standing for, forever. A woman's voice, heard too late. Have you ever felt like you had something truly important to say? but no one seemed to be listening. Imagine that feeling, but stretched across centuries, affecting not just one person, but countless brilliant minds. For a long time in history, and in many places even now, women were often told their thoughts weren't as valuable, or that their place wasn't in public debates or scientific discovery. Their ideas, no matter how insightful, could be easily dismissed, ignored, or sometimes even stolen. This isn't just about rudeness, it's a deep, quiet sorrow. It meant that vital truths, new inventions, or profound ways of understanding the world went unheard. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to solve a really tricky puzzle. You need every piece, but if half the people holding pieces are told their pieces don't matter, or aren't allowed to put them in, the puzzle stays incomplete. The full picture of knowledge, of what is true, suffers. Consider a talented young woman in the past, maybe centuries ago. She might have studied the stars, thought deeply about justice, or even found a cure for a sickness, all in secret. She wrote down her thoughts, perhaps in journals hidden away. But because society didn't expect women to be scholars or scientists, her work wasn't published. Her theories weren't debated in universities. When she died, her words might have been burned or lost, her groundbreaking ideas never seeing the light of day. Perhaps years later, a man would discover the same thing and get all the credit, simply because he was allowed to speak. It's a powerful reminder that truth and wisdom don't belong to any gender or group. They can come from anywhere. When we silence voices, especially because of who someone is, we don't just hurt that person, we hurt ourselves, our whole community. We miss out on wisdom, on progress, on understanding. And that's why it matters so much that we listen now to every voice, so that no more truths are lost to time, unheard. The code they couldn't break. What if the biggest mysteries aren't found in ancient tombs or distant galaxies, but right inside us and around us every day? Imagine a truth so deep, so layered, it's like a secret code woven into the fabric of existence. Many brilliant minds spent their whole lives trying to crack this code. But here's the thing, they often found it unyielding. This wasn't a code made of letters or numbers, but of ideas, feelings, and the puzzling nature of being alive. It's the kind of question that makes you stare out a window, wondering about the purpose of it all. Ancient Greek thinkers and later minds from different lands grappled with these big questions. They asked, why are we here? What is true freedom? How do we live well? They tried to reason through it, to find logic where often only wonder remained, and sometimes their search for these truths led them down difficult paths, even to their end. Think about a piece of music that moves you deeply. Maybe it makes you feel both happy and a little sad at the same time. You can name the instruments, hear the melody, and understand the lyrics, but can you really explain why it gives you that specific, powerful feeling? You can describe it, yes, but that core emotional experience is like a code you can't quite break down into simple words. It's felt, it's known, but it can't be fully explained, and that's why this code remained unbroken for so many thinkers. It wasn't a lack of intelligence, but the nature of the mystery itself. Some truths aren't meant to be solved like a puzzle. Instead, they are meant to be experienced, pondered, and lived with. It's a quiet understanding that sometimes the deepest wisdom comes not from having all the answers, but from embracing the beautiful questions that linger, like an echo in the heart, a scholar's light, dimmed but not lost. Have you ever thought about how an idea can live on, long after the person who first shared it is gone? It's a quiet, powerful thing, a light that glows, even after its source has faded. We're talking about thinkers who, through their lives and even their deaths, showed us something important. Sometimes, their search for knowledge led them to a difficult end, but the knowledge itself, the truth they sought, didn't die with them. It became part of the world, shining for others to find. Think of it like this. Imagine a dark room. Someone strikes a match. For a moment, there's a bright flame. You see things around you. Then, the match burns down and goes out. The light from that match is gone. But what if, in that brief moment, it showed you the switch for a bright lamp? The match is gone, but its purpose, its spark, led to a much bigger, lasting light. Many scholars, scientists, and philosophers were like that match. They pushed against old ideas, asked hard questions. Sometimes, their answers were not popular. In ancient Greece, Socrates, a wise philosopher, was sentenced to death because his ideas challenged his city's leaders. He chose to die, proving his belief in justice and the truth he taught. His life, and his last moments, became a powerful lesson. He didn't literally turn on a lamp, but his commitment to questioning freely lit a path for countless thinkers after him. So, even when a scholar's life goes out, the light of their discovery, their wisdom, or their courage keeps shining. It helps us see the world clearer, understand ourselves deeper, and that light, once lit, can never truly be put out. It lives in the books we read, the questions we ask, and the ideas we share. The seeds of justice, planted deep. Have you ever felt a deep, quiet ache when something just wasn't right? Not just a small annoyance, but a moment that felt truly, deeply unfair. It's a feeling that settles in your chest, a gentle whisper that something is out of balance. This sense, this profound yearning for fairness, for things to be set straight, is what we call justice. But where does this powerful pull come from? Is it something we simply learn from rules, or is it a part of who we are, a truth buried deep within us? Here's the thing. Many wise thinkers, across centuries and cultures, believed this feeling wasn't invented. They imagined it was planted inside us, like an ancient, powerful seed. Imagine philosophers in ancient Greece, like Plato, who mused about a perfect form of justice, a true north our souls instinctively search for, or others who saw it as an innate gift, a moral compass guiding us toward what is good. This isn't just about laws written on paper, but a deeper, quieter knowing, a feeling that some actions nurture life, while others diminish it. It's about balance, about harmony. Think about a small, injured bird you might find. You don't need a rule book to tell you it's wrong to hurt it, or that helping it feels right. There's a natural, soft urge to mend what is broken, to help it fly again. It's like our own bodies, which quietly work to heal a cut, repairing themselves even when we don't think about it. There's an inner drive for wholeness. In the same way, our communities, and each one of us, carry this persistent, quiet urge to mend what is unfair, to find balance where there is none. Even when the world seems harsh and broken, that seed of justice, that tender hope for what is right, remains. It's a patient, enduring force, and that's why it matters. This constant, gentle pull toward a world that feels more true, more good, more whole. It keeps us seeking, always. His books, his funeral pyre. Have you ever thought about how powerful words can be? Not just words that make you happy or sad, but ideas so big, so different, they actually scare people. Sometimes, the ideas a person writes down, their very books, become the reason they face serious trouble, or even death. It's like their ideas lit a fire beneath them. This happened throughout history. Imagine a time when almost everyone believed the earth was the very center of everything, and the sun and stars revolved around us. Then, someone like Giordano Bruno came along. He was a thinker who bravely said there were countless worlds, even other suns. His books, filled with these wild ideas, challenged what people had always been taught. Powerful people of his time saw his thoughts not just as wrong, but dangerous, like a disease. So dangerous he was put to death, burned at the stake. His ideas felt so threatening they became his own funeral pyre. It wasn't just him they wanted to silence. It was his thoughts. Here's the thing. This isn't just about ancient history. Think about when you have a truly new idea for a project at school. Maybe it's super creative, but nobody else gets it at first. They might laugh, or say it's impossible. It can feel like your idea is being shot down, burned by their doubt. But sometimes, later, someone else sees the genius in it, and your idea, even if you felt embarrassed at first, finds a way to live on. So, when we think about these brave people, it makes you wonder, what does it take to stand by an idea, even when it feels like the whole world is against you? And it shows us something important. True ideas are incredibly strong. Even if the person who wrote them is gone, even if their books are burned, the sparks of their thinking can still float out, catch fire in new minds, and light up new paths. It's a sad story, but it also reminds us that some truths, once spoken, can never truly be destroyed. Trusting the stars, ignoring fear. Have you ever felt a deep pull toward an idea? Something you just knew was true, even if it felt scary to believe. Maybe everyone around you saw things differently. Sticking to your own view felt like a real risk. This idea, trusting the stars, ignoring fear, is about that kind of quiet bravery. Think about people centuries ago. They looked up and believed Earth was the very center of everything. The sun, moon, and stars all spun around us, they thought. But then, thinkers like Galileo looked closer. He used a new tool, a telescope, and saw unseen things. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter. He realized Earth must orbit the Sun, like other planets. This was a huge, scary thought. It went against everything taught for thousands of years. It challenged powerful beliefs. Saying the Earth moved meant risking freedom, reputation, even life. But Galileo trusted what his eyes showed him, what his math proved. He trusted the stars, meaning the truth. He observed even with fear close by. Here's the thing. You might not be studying planets, but you face similar choices. Imagine you're doing a science project. You collect your data, and it points to one clear answer. But maybe a friend suggests something else. It's easier to just agree. But you look at your results again. You trust what you've seen, what your experiment tells you. That quiet confidence, that belief in your direct observation, is a small version of trusting your stars. Double quotes. So, this isn't just about brave scientists. It's about deeper knowing. It's about listening to that quiet voice inside you. The one that whispers what's true when the world shouts something else. It's about finding courage to follow that truth. Not because it's easy, but because it feels deeply right. It's a profound trust in the path you see, even if shadows loom. The unseen illness, a doctor's plea. Have you ever felt a truth deep inside you? A thought so clear it hummed in your mind, but knew sharing it would be hard, maybe even painful. Think about those thinkers who dedicated their lives to ideas. Many carried a kind of unseen illness, a heavy burden, as they stood for what they believed. This isn't a sickness you catch from a cough. It's the deep weariness that settles in when your inner thoughts fight against the world, when your quiet convictions clash with loud shouts of disbelief. For centuries, here's the thing, people who dared to think differently faced more than just arguments. They faced rejection, loneliness, sometimes danger. Imagine someone like Galileo, looking at the stars through his telescope, seeing truths no one else would accept. But here's the problem. The illness wasn't just the church's opposition. It was the quiet strain of knowing something profound, but being told it was wrong. It was the isolating weight of being right when everyone powerful said you weren't. It's like having a beautiful song in your head, but being forced to play only silence. This can feel like a heavy cloak you wear alone. Think about a time you tried to explain an important idea to someone who just wouldn't understand. That frustration, that feeling of being misunderstood, stretches into something much deeper for those who risked everything for their thoughts. It's the silent battle within, often leading to deep sadness or exhaustion, a weariness that can break the spirit. So, what's the plea? It's a call for us to look beyond the famous names and big ideas. It's a request to see the human heart beating beneath the philosopher's robe, to feel the quiet ache of the scientist proving a point, and to understand the unseen suffering that often comes with great truth. We should remember the profound personal cost of challenging the world, and perhaps choose kindness and openness for those who dare to think differently today. A whisper in the dark, a roar in death. Have you ever felt a truth so strong, a belief so deep in your heart, that even if no one else understood, you just had to hold on to it? Sometimes, the biggest ideas, the ones that change the world, start in a quiet place. They begin as a whisper, maybe in a hidden journal, or in the mind of someone who dares to think differently. These thoughts often feel small, almost invisible, in a world that might not be ready for them. But here's the thing. History holds stories of people who carried these whispers, these quiet truths, even when it was dangerous. They lived in times when new ideas were scary. Thinkers, scientists, and philosophers sometimes faced dark opposition simply for seeing the world a new way. Their words might have been spoken softly at first, or even kept secret, but their conviction, their deep certainty about what was right or true, could not be silenced forever. Imagine dropping a single, tiny pebble into a very still pond. At first, you see only a small ripple. It might seem unimportant, but that ripple spreads. It touches the edges of the pond, creating bigger waves, even reaching places far from where the pebble first landed. The pebble itself is gone, resting at the bottom, but its effect lives on, growing larger and larger. In a similar way, some thinkers, through their quiet courage and unwavering belief, set off ripples that turned into giant waves. When they died, sometimes for their ideas, their whispers turned into a roar that echoed through generations. Their passing didn't silence their truth. It often made it louder, proving the power of their conviction. It showed the world that some ideas are worth everything. Their stories remind us that a single, brave thought, even one born in the quietest corner, can grow to shake the very foundations of the world. It's a powerful lesson about the lasting strength of truth and the quiet bravery it takes to stand by it. The price of a new world map. Have you ever stopped to think about what it truly costs to change how everyone sees the world? It's a huge idea, right? Like someone sketching out a brand new map, not of countries and oceans, but of understanding itself. For a long time, people believed the earth was flat. Their maps showed dragons and terrifying drops at the edges. But then, thinkers started to wonder. They watched ships disappear over the horizon. Slowly, they drew a new picture. Around Earth. For those who first suggested this, it wasn't just a simple change. It was a huge challenge to everything people believed. Two old stories, two powerful ways of thinking. Imagine you're in science class, and everyone is taught light travels only in straight lines. But you do an experiment, and something unexpected happens. Maybe you see light bend around an object in a way that just doesn't fit the rule. You try to explain it, but your classmates, even your teacher, might shake their heads. They're so used to the old idea. It takes real courage to stand by your observation, to say, but what if the map is wrong? Think of it, an old map feels safe. Everyone knows and trusts it. To draw a new one, to say, this is different, this is better, this is true, means stepping into the unknown. It means facing doubt, or even anger, from those who don't want the old map disturbed. They might feel lost, confused, or even threatened by the new picture. The thinkers in this series, the ones who died proving a point, were often the first to see these new maps. They saw a deeper truth, a different way the world worked. The price they paid for sharing that truth was often very high. Their struggles and sacrifices helped us trace the lines of the world we understand today. It's a quiet reminder that sometimes the biggest changes start with a single brave hand drawing a new line on an ancient map, even if it costs everything. Chains for truth, wings for thought. Have you ever known something true, but it felt risky to say it out loud? Maybe it went against what everyone else believed. For some in history, speaking a new truth was dangerous. Their bodies could be put in chains by society or power, but their ideas, their thoughts, those had wings. These ideas found ways to fly far, touching minds long after the thinkers were gone. Think about ancient Greece and a philosopher named Socrates. He asked deep questions about justice and living well. Some powerful people didn't like his questions. He was condemned to death. His body was controlled. Yet, his way of questioning, his ideas about seeking wisdom, were not stopped. They lived on for centuries, inspiring thinkers who came after him. Or consider Galileo. He saw through his telescope that Earth moved around the sun. This truth went against what most believed. He was forced to deny his findings, to be silenced. His voice was chained. But his discovery, that scientific truth, eventually broke free, changing how we understand our universe. It's like having a new, great idea for a school project. At first, others might not understand it. They might criticize it, trying to stop it. But if the idea is truly strong, truly useful, it finds a way, it spreads. The initial resistance is like the chains, the idea soaring on its own. That's the wings of thought. So, these brave people teach us something important. Even if a person is harmed, an idea holding real truth can never truly die. It always finds ways to take flight. It waits for minds, ready to catch it and carry it further, reminding us to cherish truth, no matter how hard it is to share. Dying for the next sunrise. Have you ever wondered why some people fight for something they might never actually see come true? It's a deep thought, for sure. Think about it like this. Imagine planting a tiny acorn, knowing you might not be around when it grows into a huge, strong oak tree. But you plant it anyway. Why? Because you believe in that future tree, its shade, and the new life it will bring. This idea, dying for the next sunrise, is about that kind of belief. It's about people who gave everything, even their lives, not for themselves, but for a brighter future they might never get to experience. History holds many stories like this. Some thinkers spoke truths that were unpopular, even dangerous, in their time. They faced powerful people who wanted to silence them, but they kept pushing their ideas, knowing that someday these truths would help everyone. They weren't just thinking about their own lives. They were thinking about what was right and what the world could become. They were building a path, brick by brick, even if others would be the ones to walk all the way to the end. It's kind of like a scientist who spends years and years working on one tiny part of a big problem, like finding a cure for a disease. They might not see the final medicine, or even live long enough for it to be discovered, but they share their notes, their failures, and their small successes. They add their piece to a huge puzzle, and later, someone else picks up where they left off, using that first person's work to get closer to the answer. They didn't finish the race, but they ran their part with all their heart, hoping the next person would carry the torch. So, when we think about these thinkers, we realize their ending wasn't truly an end for their ideas. Their lives may have finished, but their thoughts, their courage, and their sacrifices became seeds. Those seeds grew into the knowledge and freedom we often take for granted today. We stand on their shoulders, seeing further because they dared to look ahead. It shows us how one person's hope, even in the darkest times, can light up the path for generations to come. The bridge he built through suffering. Have you ever thought about how sometimes the hardest paths lead to the strongest places? It's a strange idea, but some of the most important thinkers in history went through immense pain and struggle, not just for themselves, but almost like they were building a way for everyone else to follow. Throughout time, there are stories of people whose ideas challenged the world. They saw things differently, and they spoke truths that others weren't ready to hear. Sometimes, because of this, they faced really hard times. They might have been laughed at, or locked away, or even lost their lives for what they believed was right. Their journey was filled with suffering. But here's the thing, their suffering wasn't wasted. Imagine a deep, wide canyon that's impossible to cross. What if someone, through incredible effort, managed to build a bridge across it? Every stone they laid, every piece of wood they hammered, was part of a difficult, even painful process. Maybe they got hurt, maybe they were exhausted, but the bridge slowly took shape. And when it was finally finished, the builder might have been broken, but the bridge stood strong. Now, countless others can walk safely across that canyon, thanks to that incredibly difficult work. It's kind of like that with learning something truly challenging, like a really complex math problem or a new skill on a musical instrument. You struggle, you make mistakes, over and over. It feels frustrating, maybe even painful sometimes. But every moment of confusion, every wrong note or failed equation, is actually building a pathway in your brain. You're making connections. And when you finally understand it, it becomes easier for you. You built a bridge for your own understanding, and then, you can even help a friend who's struggling with the same thing, guiding them across the path you just built. The thinkers we talk about, they built bridges of understanding for all of us. Their pain, their struggles, their very lives, became the path for others to see further, to understand more deeply. They didn't just die, they died creating a way forward. And that's why it matters, because their suffering didn't end with them. It became a gift, a sturdy, lasting bridge for all of us, a final stand for the human heart. Have you ever felt something in your gut, a deep knowing that you just couldn't ignore? What if that feeling, that truth, meant you might lose everything? This is about moments when thinkers, artists, and even quiet people stood up for something so central to who we are that they paid the ultimate price. It wasn't about fighting a war with swords. It was a quieter, deeper battle, fought within their own hearts. Here's the thing, throughout history, some believed certain ideas were not just thoughts, but essential parts of being human. Things like freedom to think, the right to speak truth, or the simple dignity of every person. When these core beliefs were threatened, some chose to stand firm, even when facing terrible consequences, even death. Think of a figure like Socrates, an ancient Greek philosopher. He taught his students to question everything, to seek truth, even if it challenged powerful people. When faced with the choice to stop teaching his ideas or die, he chose to drink poison. He wasn't giving up. He was protecting the freedom to think, the very soul of the human mind. He made a final stand for his truth. Now, imagine for a moment, you're in class, and you know the answer to a tricky question is if but. Everyone around you is whispering B, and the teacher is looking at you. It takes real courage to stick with A, to trust your own knowing, even if it feels lonely or scary. That small moment of choosing what you truly believe, despite pressure, is a tiny echo of these grander stands. These thinkers showed us that some truths are so precious, so much a part of humanity, that they are worth more than life itself. They weren't just proving a point to others, they were proving it to themselves, and to the future. And that's why it matters. Their sacrifice wasn't just an end, it was a powerful statement. It reminds us that the human heart, when truly committed to a deep truth, can shine a light that never goes out. This light continues to guide us. Their quiet bravery whispers through time, asking us to also find what truths we hold most dear. Asterisk. Truths echo in a silent tomb. Have you ever wondered what happens to a great idea after the person who thought of it is gone? Maybe they were silenced, maybe they died of old age, but what about their truth? Does it just vanish, like a whisper in the wind? The thing is, some truths are so strong, they don't fade away. They become like an echo, bouncing through time, long after the voice that first spoke them has fallen silent. Think about the history of our world. For centuries, many wise people, from ancient philosophers to brave scientists, shared ideas that went against what everyone else believed. Sometimes, people even fought them for it. They might have been mocked, or even punished. But the truth they saw, a bit like a seed, was planted. It lay hidden for a while, maybe buried under doubt or fear, but it was still there. And eventually, like a tiny sprout pushing through hard ground, that truth found its way to the surface. It spread, slowly at first, then faster, becoming something everyone could see and understand. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine you're in a dark room, someone turns on a small flashlight. Maybe people laugh, saying the light is too weak, or it's not real light, but the light is real. It shows you what's there. And even if that person leaves the room and the flashlight goes out, the memory of what the light revealed stays with you. And maybe, later, someone else finds a bigger light, building on that first tiny glimpse. The truth revealed by that first small light, that reality, doesn't go away. It stays, waiting to be seen again. So, when we think of those who died for what they believed, it's not just a sad story. It's also a powerful reminder. It shows us that some ideas, some understandings about the world, are bigger than any one person. They are like a quiet, strong hum that keeps vibrating, even from a silent tomb. And that hum, that echo, can still change the world, even centuries later. Asterisk. The unsung hero of clean hands. Have you ever thought about how some of the biggest ideas, the ones that save lives, sometimes start with something tiny, something you can't even see, or how a simple habit can be a quiet superpower? Imagine a time, not so long ago, when doctors didn't know about germs. They'd go from one patient to another, even from performing autopsies to delivering babies, without washing their hands. It sounds wild now, right? But back then, nobody knew why so many new mothers were getting terribly sick and dying in hospitals. It was a mystery, a heartbreaking pattern that seemed impossible to stop. Then came a doctor named Ignaz. He wasn't trying to be famous or start a revolution. He just watched, he wondered, and he noticed a pattern. He saw that doctors who washed their hands with a special cleaning solution, after dealing with the sick or the deceased, had far fewer patients get sick. His idea was simple. Clean hands could stop the spread of invisible danger. But here's the thing: many of his colleagues laughed at him. They thought his idea was strange, even insulting. They didn't want to believe that their hands could be the cause of so much tragedy. It's kind of like how we know brushing our teeth keeps them healthy. We don't see the tiny bacteria eating away at our enamel, but we trust the simple act. Semmelweis saw an invisible enemy and suggested an invisible shield. His struggle wasn't against a disease you could see, but against old ideas, against pride, against not wanting to change. He fought for a truth that was so plain, it was hard for some to accept. Semmelweis died without seeing his ideas fully accepted, but his quiet observation, his stubborn belief in the power of clean, changed medicine forever. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest heroes aren't loud or celebrated in their time. They're the ones who see a simple truth, hold on to it, and plant a seed that grows into something beautiful, even if it blooms long after they're gone. And that's why something as everyday as washing your hands holds such a deep story. A poet's truth, too sharp to hold. Have you ever felt how some words, especially in poems or songs, can hit you right in the gut? It's like they cut through everything, straight to your heart. That's what we mean by a truth being too sharp to hold. It's not just a fact, but a deep feeling, an honest look at the world so true it can really shake things up. For ages, artists and writers have had a special job. They don't just report on life. They show us its hidden colors, its quiet pains, and its big joys. They ask important questions, not with arguments, but with feelings and pictures made of words. Imagine a poet writing about unfairness in their town. They might not write a news story with facts. Instead, they paint a picture with words, showing the struggle on people's faces, the silent cries. That kind of truth, told beautifully and deeply, can be more powerful than plain facts. But here's the thing. Sometimes, when you share a truth that strongly, it makes people uncomfortable. It can challenge old ways of thinking, or make powerful people nervous. Think of it like holding a beautiful, clear crystal. It sparkles, but if you hold it wrong, or squeeze it, it can cut your hand. A deep truth is similar. It's beautiful and real, but sharing it can change the world around it. And sometimes, the person who speaks it can be hurt by its impact. So when we talk about a poet's truth being too sharp, it's about the courage to speak something so real, so important. It's about brave hearts who truly saw the world, and then shared that raw vision. They did this even when the world wasn't ready to be gentle with it. Their words might have been risky, but they also cleared a path for others. They remind us some truths are worth every risk. The last page of freedom's story. Have you ever really thought about what it means to be free? And what if your deepest beliefs, your truest ideas, led you to the very edge of your own life? This is the meaning behind the last page of freedom's story. It's about those brave thinkers who reached a point where their personal journey for freedom, their very existence, ended because they simply refused to give up on a powerful truth. Imagine a profound story written in a book. Each chapter tells about a person's life, their choices, and what they learned. The last page of freedom's story is when a thinker writes their final words not with ink, but with their life itself. They stood so incredibly firm for what they believed was right, for a concept so vital that they chose to let their personal story end rather than betray that truth. This wasn't a choice made without thought. It was a deep, quiet resolve, born from a profound sense of purpose. Think of it this way. You're creating an amazing, tall structure using building blocks. You've planned every detail, and each block is in its perfect place, making the whole thing strong. Then, someone tells you to remove a very important block, one you know is vital, or your entire structure will be knocked down. You understand that removing it would make your creation weak, untrue to your original vision. So, you refuse. Even if your physical structure falls, the idea of your perfect, strong design, and your belief in that key block, remains untouched. You proved its importance by standing firm. That's what these thinkers did. Their final act was a silent, powerful shout that echoed through history. They showed us that some ideas, some truths, are so precious, so much a part of who we are, that they are worth everything. Their stories remind us that while a body can be broken, an idea, bravely defended, can live on forever, inspiring freedom in others long after its first champion is gone. The Martyr's canvas, painted bold. Have you ever wondered what makes someone hold on to an idea so tightly, so fiercely, that they would give up everything for it? It's a heavy thought, isn't it? But for some thinkers, their ideas were part of their very being. Standing by those ideas sometimes meant facing the darkest parts of the world. This is what we call martyrdom of ideas. It's not just about dying, it's about dying for something. Think of it like this. These brave souls painted their most important beliefs onto the canvas of history. Not with brushes, but with their own lives. They chose to let their final act be a bold statement. Their sacrifice wasn't a defeat. It was a declaration, a powerful shout that their truth mattered. They wanted their ideas to live on, to shine bright, even if their own light went out. Here's an analogy. Imagine you deeply believe that a certain way to solve a math problem is correct, even if all your friends are doing it differently. You've worked it out, you understand it. You stand by your answer, even if it means getting a lower grade at first, because you know your method is true. That deep conviction, that feeling something is undeniably right, is a tiny echo of what these thinkers felt. They saw a truth others didn't, and they couldn't unsee it. Their stand, though extreme, was born from that same kind of deep knowing. So, their stories are not just tales of loss. They are vibrant colors on a giant, endless canvas. Each life, each difficult choice, added another shade, another line, showing us the power of conviction. These thinkers, in their final moments, didn't just die. They made their ideas immortal. They taught us that some truths are so important, they are worth everything. And their courage still whispers to us across the centuries, reminding us to always seek our own truths and stand by what we believe. It's a powerful, quiet lesson. When knowledge cost everything, have you ever thought about how scary it might be to know something true, really true, but something that others didn't want to hear? Something that might even put you in danger. For a long time in human history, when people discovered a new idea, especially about how the world worked or what was right and wrong, it wasn't always celebrated. Sometimes, knowing too much, or knowing something different from what was commonly accepted, was seen as a threat. People in power, or those holding on to old beliefs, often felt deeply shaken by new ideas. They might have thought these new truths would break apart the very fabric of society, or directly challenge their own authority and control. Imagine a time, not so long ago, when simply saying the Earth wasn't flat, or that the Sun, not our planet, was the true center of our universe, could lead to serious trouble. You weren't just corrected, you could be called a rebel, thrown in jail, or even lose your very life for simply believing in a new, uncomfortable truth that others weren't ready for. It's a bit like when you're playing a game with friends, and everyone believes a certain rule is how it works, even if it's not written down. Then, you read the official rulebook and find out the real rule, the one that changes everything about how you play. If you try to tell everyone the real rule, some people might get really mad. They liked the old way, the familiar way. They might even try to stop you from playing, or make you feel wrong for knowing something different, something that challenges their comfortable beliefs. The people we're going to talk about, these brave thinkers, they faced this, but with much, much higher stakes. They believed in the quiet power of knowing, of understanding things deeply and clearly, and they chose to stand by that knowledge, even when it meant standing alone against powerful forces. Their courage, their willingness to suffer for what they knew to be true, quietly but powerfully pushed humanity forward, often without immediate thanks or recognition. It reminds us that truth, even when it's uncomfortable or profoundly challenging, is a fragile light worth protecting, no matter the personal cost. A voice from the cell. Heard by many. Have you ever thought about how a whisper can travel further than a shout, especially when that whisper holds a powerful truth? Imagine someone, locked away, maybe in a small, dark room. Their body is trapped, but what about their ideas, their thoughts, their very spirit? Can those be caged too? Throughout history, there have been people who were put in prisons, not for stealing or hurting others, but because of what they believed, what they said, or what they wrote. They stood up for ideas that were different, ideas that challenged the way things were, and for that, they lost their freedom. But here's the thing, sometimes, when you try to silence a truth, it just finds a louder way to speak. Think of it like a seed planted in the dark soil. You can cover it, weigh it down, but its life force pushes upwards. Eventually, it breaks through, reaching for the light. Or, imagine a simple message tucked inside a bottle and thrown into the ocean. Even though the person who sent it is far away, the bottle drifts, crossing vast waters, until it washes up on a distant shore, carrying its message to someone new. A voice from a cell is like that. It's a message that somehow escapes the walls built around it. It's the quiet courage of a person whose body is confined, but whose mind travels freely, influencing others. Their ideas slip through the cracks, carried by friends, by secret letters, or simply by the sheer power of their example. These voices, spoken from a place of confinement and challenge, remind us that some truths are too vast, too important, to ever be truly locked away. They show us that courage isn't always a roar. Sometimes, it's a quiet, steady light that, against all odds, finds its way to shine brightly, guiding others even from the deepest shadows. And that's why it matters. The philosopher's farewell toast. What does it mean to truly stand by your beliefs, even when it's incredibly hard? It's not just about saying what you think is right. It's about living it, every single day, up until the very end. For some thinkers, their final moments were like a quiet, meaningful farewell toast to the life they had lived, a final nod to the truths they had explored. Imagine someone who has dedicated their whole life to teaching about justice, about speaking truth, and about following the law. This person, Socrates, was one of the most famous examples. He was accused of challenging the gods and corrupting young people. He could have run away from Athens and lived a long, safe life somewhere else. But here's the thing, Socrates believed deeply in the laws of Athens. He believed that to run would be to deny everything he had taught about civic duty and living an honorable life. So, he chose to stay and face his punishment, even if it meant death. It was like he was raising an invisible glass, not to celebrate, but to affirm he was toasting to his own principles, saying, "My life and my words are one. I will not betray what I believe." Even now, it's like when you promise to always be honest. Then, you break something and can blame someone else. But if you truly believe in honesty, you admit it, even if it means getting in trouble. Your action becomes your final, silent agreement with your own code. These thinkers, they didn't just die. They died in a way that showed the world what they truly stood for. Their final act wasn't a tragedy, but a quiet, powerful statement. It was a final, graceful gesture, showing their ideas weren't just words, but a way of living they held on to, even as life faded. And that's why it matters. Their last breath echoed the truths they had lived for. The seed of peace bloomed in blood. Have you ever thought about how sometimes the most beautiful things grow from something hard, even painful? It's a strange idea, but it's real. Think about a tiny seed. It needs to be buried in dark earth, sometimes endure harsh weather, before it can push through and become a flower. That's a bit like how deep change and peace have sometimes bloomed in our world, often after great struggle, even after lives were given. For centuries, people stood up for what they believed was right, for freedom, for justice. These brave thinkers and leaders challenged old ways, asked hard questions, and dreamed of a better tomorrow. For their courage, some paid the ultimate price. It feels heavy to think about, doesn't it? That someone would give everything for an idea, but their sacrifices weren't forgotten. They became the very soil. Imagine a forest after a wildfire. It looks devastating, all scorched and silent. But soon, from those ashes, new life starts to appear. Small green shoots, stronger trees, sometimes flowers that need the fire to bloom. The old is gone, making way for something reborn. In a way, the pain, the blood from those who dared to dream, became the very ground from which peace, equality, and understanding could finally take root and grow. Their last stand became the first step for many dots. So, when we remember these thinkers, it's not just about their ending, it's about what grew from it. It's about the hope that even in the darkest moments, courage can plant a seed. And with time, care, and the efforts of others, that seed can blossom into a future where everyone has a voice, a place, and a chance for peace. It's a quiet strength, born from a loud sacrifice. Their ideas, stronger than stone. Have you ever wondered what truly lasts? Buildings crumble, and even mountains wear down over millions of years. But what about a thought, an idea? Can something invisible, something you can't touch, be more lasting than solid rock? Here's the thing. Many of the thinkers we talk about faced incredible challenges. Some were jailed, some were exiled, and yes, some even died because of what they believed. But the amazing part is, their ideas didn't die with them. In fact, sometimes, the very act of them standing up for their beliefs, even to the end, made their ideas stronger. It's like a quiet seed planted deep in the earth. You can step on it, but if it's got life, it will still grow, pushing up through the soil, reaching for the sun. Think about something simple, like a common story or a melody. Someone creates it, maybe hundreds of years ago. But that story, or that song, travels through time. People share it, they remember it, they pass it down. It changes lives, even if the person who first made it is long gone. That's how ideas work too. A scientific truth, like the idea that the earth goes around the sun, was hard for people to accept at first. People even suffered for saying it. But the truth of that idea didn't go away. It kept spreading, patiently, quietly, until it was understood. It tells us something important about our own minds, doesn't it? Our thoughts, our beliefs, the things we imagine, they have a power we might not always see. They can inspire, they can heal, they can change the world, long after we are gone. And that's why it matters. Even when faced with great force, a powerful idea can outlive empires and outshine the brightest stars, whispering its truth across generations. It's a quiet strength, like water shaping stone. The burden of knowing too much. Have you ever learned something so big, so true, that it settled deep in your chest and changed how you saw everything? Maybe it was a secret, or a new understanding of how the world really works. Here's the thing. Sometimes, knowing too much can feel like carrying a heavy stone. It's not always a gift. Sometimes, knowledge is a burden. Don't think about people through history. There were thinkers who saw the stars and realized Earth wasn't the center. Or doctors who understood how diseases spread long before others believed them. These people held truths that were unwelcome, even dangerous, in their time. It wasn't easy for them to speak out, and it was hard to live with such clarity when others held different ideas. They faced ridicule, loneliness, and often, much worse they knew, and that knowing set them apart. It weighed on them. It's like when you learn about a problem in your community, a big one, like people needing help, or a place that's unfair. Once you know, you can't just forget it. That knowledge stays, perhaps making you feel sad, or that you should do something. You see the world through a new lens, and sometimes that lens shows you hard truths. You carry that understanding. So this quiet weight of knowing, this burden, is what many great thinkers carried. They saw patterns others missed, understood consequences before they happened. Their minds held a clarity that isolated them. But here's what's important. They chose to carry that weight, often for our good. And in that quiet burden, there's a strange kind of strength. It reminds us that truth, even when heavy, has a power all its own. We honor those who carried it, for they lit pathways for us, a spark that lit the way forward. Have you ever wondered how big ideas truly begin? It's rarely a loud bang or a giant spotlight. Instead, it often starts quietly, a small flicker in someone's mind. Think of it like a tiny spark. For ages, before huge discoveries or changes in thinking, there was often one person or a small group who saw things differently. They held a question, an idea, that wouldn't leave them. This thought was often dangerous, going against what everyone believed. But that spark, that single, brave idea, was the very first step. It was when a new path began to glow. Imagine dropping a small pebble into a still pond. You don't see a huge wave immediately. Instead, a small ripple appears. That ripple grows wider, spreading across the water to every edge. That tiny pebble created something that eventually touched the whole surface. Here's the thing about human thought. It works a lot like that ripple. Someone might whisper a question, or quietly write down an unusual idea. At first, it might seem small, but if that idea holds truth, if it shows a new way to see the world, then that ripple will spread. Others will hear it, think about it, and add their own thoughts. Over time, that tiny spark from one mind can grow into a fire, changing how a whole society understands things. The thinkers we remember, who faced great challenges, began with such a spark. Their courage wasn't just in big discoveries, but in the quiet decision to even consider a new way. This matters because it reminds us that each of us can start a ripple, light a small spark that could light the way for many. Their legacy is about the daring questions they dared to ask. The courage of a single pen. Have you ever considered the quiet strength found in a single idea, written down? Sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do isn't to fight a battle with loud shouts or swords. Often, it's simply to pick up a pen. It's about writing down what you truly believe, even when others might disagree strongly. Long ago, and even now, people risked everything just to share what they thought was true. Imagine a world where powerful rulers or strict groups told everyone what to think. If you wrote something different, something that went against their rules, it could be really dangerous. Many thinkers believed that finding the truth, even if it was unpopular, was the most important thing. They knew their words could challenge old ways of thinking. They knew those words could even change the world, but they also knew it might put them in harm's way. They wrote anyway. It's a bit like a tiny seed planted in dark soil. For a while, you don't see anything on the surface, but then, quietly, it grows roots deep down, and eventually, it pushes through the ground, becoming a strong plant. A written idea works like that. It starts small, just ink on paper, but it can grow. It can spread and change minds, sometimes even across hundreds of years. So, the courage of a single pen isn't always about making a big noise. It's often a very brave, quiet act of planting a thought. It's about leaving behind a piece of your mind, hoping it will help others see the world a little clearer. It reminds us that words have a silent, powerful life of their own. They can echo far beyond the hand that wrote them, touching people long after the writer is gone. The point he made with his last breath, Have you ever wondered if a person's very last moments could be their most powerful? Sometimes, for certain thinkers throughout history, their final breath wasn't just an end. It was the ultimate way to prove a point they had lived for, to show the world what truly mattered to them. Think about brave scientists or quiet reformers. They weren't always loved for their ideas. Often, their thoughts challenged powerful people or very old ways of thinking. And that's why, for some, their passing became less about the end of life and more about the bright, undeniable flash of their message. This can help you understand the deep courage involved. They didn't just talk about their beliefs, they showed them completely, even when it meant facing the ultimate consequence. Imagine you've worked for weeks on a complicated science project. You've tested, and you know your results are true. But then, imagine you have to present it to people who really want to tell you you're wrong, who might even mock your efforts. What if proving your point meant risking everything you had worked for? It's like that. It's standing by your truth, even when the world pushes back. The point made in their last breath wasn't just a whisper. It was a loud echo of their life's work, their integrity, and their courage. It was saying, "This is true, and I will stand by it, no matter what," and that's why it matters so much. So, when we look at these thinkers, we see more than just an ending. We see a kind of quiet power, a lasting voice from the past. It reminds us that what we truly believe in, what we're willing to stand for, can leave a mark far beyond our own lives. It's about the enduring strength of an idea, carried through to the very last moment. The price of seeing clearly. Have you ever wondered what it truly costs to see the world differently, to really understand something deeply that others might not? This isn't just about seeing with your eyes, it's about seeing with your mind, your heart. It's when a truth clicks into place, clear and bright, but it's a truth that challenges what everyone else believes. And here's the thing about seeing so clearly, it often comes with a price. Sometimes, that price is being misunderstood. Sometimes, it's being questioned, or even pushed away. It can feel lonely, like you're standing on a hill, seeing something everyone else below misses. It takes a certain kind of brave heart to hold on to a truth when the world seems to disagree. Think about someone like Galileo. He wasn't just guessing about the sky. He used his telescope, he observed the stars, and he saw that the Earth truly went around the sun. For hundreds of years before him, everyone believed the Earth was the center of the universe. When Galileo tried to explain what he saw, people didn't celebrate him. Instead, he faced anger, even punishment. He had to stand by his truth, even when it meant facing immense pressure to deny it. That was his price for seeing clearly, for knowing a deep scientific fact that changed everything. It's a bit like when you're working on a group project, and you suddenly realize there's a much simpler, better way to solve the problem, but everyone else insists on the old, harder method. Or when you see that something isn't fair, not really, even if it's the way things have always been done. Speaking up, or even just holding on to that different understanding inside yourself, takes a quiet kind of bravery. It takes courage not to just go along with the crowd. This kind of clear seeing, this understanding of a deeper truth, has always been difficult. It asks you to be strong, to trust what you know, even when it's unpopular. But it's also how we grow, how society changes for the better. The people who pay this price, those who dare to see clearly, are the ones who gently, sometimes painfully, guide the rest of us toward a more honest, more thoughtful way of being. Their lonely clarity lights a path for us all, a martyr's echo in the wind. Have you ever thought about how some voices, even after they're silenced, somehow grow louder? It's a strange idea, but it happens. Imagine, a person speaks up for something they deeply believe in, maybe a big truth, or a new way of seeing the world. And sometimes, for that belief, they face great danger, even death. This isn't just a sad ending, it's often a powerful new beginning for their ideas. We call this a martyr's echo. It's like when someone dies for a cause or a belief, and their death doesn't bury their idea. Instead, it lifts that idea up, making it fly further and speak louder than it ever could have before. It's not about choosing death, but about living with such strong conviction that their final act becomes a powerful symbol. For centuries, people have stood firm. Think of the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. He chose to drink poison rather than stop asking important questions about justice. His death made his ideas about honest thinking unforgettable. It showed the world some things are more important than life itself. Here's the thing about this sacrifice. It lights a fire. it sparks something deep inside others who hear the story. Imagine throwing a small pebble into a still lake. The pebble is tiny, but the ripples it creates spread out, touching the whole surface. That pebble is the person's final, brave act, and the ripples are the ideas and strong feelings that spread from their death. Like a scientist who keeps working on a tough problem because they believe in finding the truth, these thinkers stood firm. Their deaths became undeniable proof of their belief, and that's why these echoes matter. They remind us that ideas can be stronger than fear, and that standing up for what's right, even when it's scary, can leave a mark that lasts for generations. It tells us that some convictions are so powerful, they can't truly be silenced. Instead, they're made louder, carried by the quiet wind of time. It's a gentle hum in history, telling us that courage lives on. The path less taken, ending early. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to walk a path no one else understands? A path so different, so new, that it pushes against everything people believe. Sometimes, those who choose such a journey, those who search for a truth beyond what is easy or popular, find their journey's end sooner than expected. It's like stepping into a dense, unknown forest, feeling a deep pull to explore it anyway. For centuries, there have been thinkers, quiet and brave, who dared to ask questions others wouldn't, or they saw answers in ways no one had before. They believed in an idea so strongly, a new way of seeing the world, even if it meant standing alone. Imagine someone who might have said the earth wasn't flat when everyone else insisted it was, or someone who believed in kindness when others were angry. Their minds soared, but sometimes the world wasn't ready, and so their time with us was cut short. Their ideas, though, often lived on, like seeds scattered by the wind. Imagine you're in a group project, and everyone wants to do it one way, the easy way, but you see a different, maybe harder, but more interesting solution. You try to explain it. It takes courage. Maybe they don't get it right away, or they even push back, but inside, you know you've tried to share something true. Sometimes, pursuing that unique idea can feel lonely. It can even be risky. So, we look back at these brilliant minds. They weren't just people who died, they were people who lived their truth, no matter the cost. They chose the path less taken, knowing it might lead to an early end, but also knowing it might light a way for others. Their quiet bravery whispers to us now. It reminds us that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones only you can see. Their legacy isn't just their ideas, but the echo of their courage. It reminds us to listen to that quiet voice inside, the one that asks, what if? The truth in their quiet goodbyes. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to stand for something? To hold on to a belief so strong that it becomes a part of who you are. Sometimes, the biggest statements aren't shouted out loud. Instead, they are whispered, or shown in the quiet way someone lives, and even in how they say goodbye. Here's the thing. Throughout history, some brave thinkers knew deep truths that went against what most people believed, or what powerful leaders wanted them to believe. They faced difficult choices. Sometimes, because of their ideas, they lost their freedom, or their lives. But their goodbyes, even when quiet or sad, weren't about giving up. They were about holding on to that truth, one last time, with all their heart. It was a final, silent echo of their conviction, showing the world what they truly valued. Think of it like this. Imagine you've been working on a complex puzzle. You finally see how all the pieces fit together, forming a clear picture. But then, everyone around you says your picture is wrong, that it doesn't make sense. It takes a quiet strength to look at your finished puzzle, know in your heart it's correct, and calmly stand by what you've discovered. Even if others don't get it right away, you don't need to shout to prove it. The truth of the picture speaks for itself. The thinkers we speak of, in their final moments, were like that. Their quiet goodbyes were not moments of defeat, but powerful, silent lessons. They show us that some truths are bigger than any single life. They remind us that even when voices are silenced, the ideas they stood for can echo across time, long after the people are gone, making us think and feel deeply about what truly matters. His vision, beyond the horizon. Have you ever looked at the ocean and wondered what's far, far past where you can see? What if you had a special kind of sight, not with your eyes, but with your mind, that let you glimpse things over that distant horizon? That's what we mean by his vision. Beyond the horizon, when we talk about these special thinkers, it's about seeing a truth, an idea, or a possible future that almost no one else can imagine yet. It's not just seeing a few steps ahead, but seeing across a vast unknown space. These thinkers had a deep knowing inside them, a quiet conviction that something fundamental was different from what everyone believed. They didn't just guess, they had a clear, strong mental image of how things really worked, or how they could work, even if it seemed impossible or even crazy to others. For a long, long time, people thought the earth was flat. They believed if you sailed too far, you'd fall off the edge. But imagine a thinker back then who felt a profound certainty deep in their bones. The earth was a sphere, round like a ball. They couldn't fly into space to prove it. They didn't have satellites. But their mind's eye, their vision, showed them a curved world where ships wouldn't fall off, but sail around. This wasn't just a random thought. It was a deeply held truth for them, a vision that went against everything society taught. Think about how challenging that must have been, to believe something so strongly, something so different from everyone around you. It took incredible courage and quiet strength to hold on to such a vision, and often these visions were so far ahead that the people who held them paid a great price. But here's the thing, their visions, like tiny seeds planted in rough soil, slowly grew. They changed how we see the world, even if the thinkers themselves never lived to see their ideas fully accepted. They helped us all see beyond our own horizons, the promise of a brighter dawn. Have you ever wondered why someone would risk everything for an idea, even if they knew they might not live to see it grow? It's a deep question, isn't it? It has to do with something called the promise of a brighter dawn. This isn't about the actual sunrise we see each morning. It's a feeling, a hope, that the future can be better, fairer, and wiser than today. Throughout history, there have been thinkers who looked at the world around them and saw problems. Maybe people weren't treated equally. Maybe old beliefs held everyone back from new discoveries about the stars or how the body works. These thinkers dared to imagine a new way. They shared their ideas, even when it meant facing anger or danger. They didn't do it just for themselves. They did it for the people who would come after them. They believed in a sunrise they might never witnessed, or think about a scientist working for years in a lab, doing tiny experiments, day after day. They might not discover a cure for a disease in their lifetime, but every small step they take, every piece of information they find, becomes a building block. Another scientist, years later, might use that work to finally make a breakthrough. That first scientist worked for a future they could only imagine. Their effort, though unseen in its final victory, helped light the path. So, when we think about those who stood for truth or justice, even unto death, we're not just remembering sad endings. We're also seeing the seeds of hope they planted. Their sacrifices remind us that change is possible, and that even in the darkest times, there's a promise of a new morning, if we are brave enough to work for it. Their courage lights our way, pushing us forward into that brighter future they dreamed of. A message sent through time. Have you ever stopped to wonder if someone, from a long, long time ago, might be trying to tell us something, not just through old letters or dusty books, but through their very lives, even their final moments? It's a strange idea, but here's the thing. Some thinkers sent messages, not just with words, but with everything they had. They carved their beliefs into the stone of history, using their own existence as the chiseled dot in times past. When sharing a new idea could be dangerous, a powerful truth often needed more than just a speech. Sometimes, it needed someone brave, enough to stand by that truth, no matter the cost. Think of it like this. If you wanted to send a message across a vast ocean before boats or planes existed, you might carve it onto something solid and set it adrift, hoping it would wash up on a distant shore. For these thinkers, their lives, dedicated to a specific point, became that solid, lasting message. It's a bit like when you see a very old tree, its roots pushing deep into the earth, even cracking through stone. That tree isn't just standing there. Its deep roots tell a story of struggle, of endurance, of life finding a way. The message isn't spoken. It's shown by its very being. These thinkers, who faced impossible choices for their convictions, left us with echoes of courage and clarity. Their actions, their sacrifices, are like those deep roots. They speak volumes without a single word. So, when we look back at these lives, it's not just about what they said or wrote. It's about the deep, quiet hum of a message that traveled through centuries. A message about truth, freedom, and the power of standing firm. And that's why it matters, because we are the ones listening now. feeling the echo of their unwavering belief, and deciding what we will do with the light they sent our way, standing against the tide until the end. Have you ever felt a deep knowing inside you? A truth that seemed clear as daylight, but the world around you saw something totally different. Imagine standing by a powerful river, and everyone else is happily floating downstream with the current, but you feel a strong pull, a quiet whisper urging you to go upstream instead. This is what it means to stand against the tide. It's about seeing a truth, holding on to a belief, or feeling a sense of rightness, even when everything and everyone else pushes you in another direction. For centuries, there have been thinkers who experienced this. They looked at the world with fresh eyes. Maybe they questioned old ideas about how the universe worked, or how people should be treated, or what freedom truly meant. They saw new paths, like someone discovering a hidden trail through a dense forest. Even when others insisted only the wide road existed. Here's the thing. It takes immense courage to walk that different path. It's like when you're working on a group project, and everyone has decided on a plan that just doesn't feel right to you. You might see a simpler, fairer, or more creative way. It can be scary to speak up, to say, but what if we tried this instead? You risk being misunderstood, or even laughed at. Yet, that inner voice tells you it matters. Many thinkers throughout history faced this very choice, but on a much larger scale. They stood firm, even when their ideas made others uncomfortable, angry, or even afraid. They knew their truth was important, even if it meant facing loneliness, or worse. Their lives, and often their deaths, remind us that sometimes the most important journey isn't with the crowd, but within yourself, following that quiet, honest light. It teaches us to listen to that inner wisdom and to bravely hold on to what we truly believe is right. The wisdom that cost a life. Have you ever thought about how much a truth can be worth? Can you imagine believing in something so deeply, so completely, that you would give up everything for it? For some thinkers throughout history, their ideas weren't just thoughts inside their minds. They were like a quiet, burning flame, a truth so bright it felt like it had to be shared. And sometimes, sharing that deep truth put them in great danger. It meant facing anger, judgment, and even death itself. This isn't about being reckless or looking for trouble. It's about a profound conviction, a quiet courage that allowed certain people to stand by what they knew in their hearts to be true, even when the world around them refused to listen. Think about a man like Socrates, from ancient Greece. He was a philosopher, someone who loved to ask questions and make people really think. He walked around his city, Athens, talking to everyone, challenging old ideas, pushing people to look deeper into themselves and the world. He truly believed that understanding yourself was the most important wisdom, but not everyone liked being challenged. Some powerful people felt he was stirring up trouble, making young people question everything. And because Socrates would not stop, because he wouldn't say his ideas were wrong or try to escape, he was sentenced to die. He chose to drink poison rather than abandon his beliefs or his search for truth. It's a bit like when you know something is right, and everyone else around you says it's wrong. Maybe you see a classmate being treated unfairly, and you speak up, even if it means getting into a little trouble yourself. Or maybe you've worked really hard on a science project, and you know your results are accurate, even if they're different from what everyone expected. You stand by your understanding, your work, because it feels true to you. These thinkers, like Socrates, weren't trying to be heroes. They were just following the soft whispers of truth inside them. Their lives became proof that ideas have power, a power that can echo through time. And sometimes, the greatest wisdom is found when someone is brave enough to stand by what they believe, no matter the cost. Their quiet courage reminds us that a true idea, once lit, can shine brightly, long after its speaker is gone. A gentle soul, a powerful cause. Have you ever thought about how some great changes in history came from quiet spirits, not the loudest voices? It's surprising, right? We picture heroes as bold and grand, but here's the thing. Sometimes, the strongest causes are nurtured by souls with deep conviction. Their strength isn't outward force. It's an inner, steady belief in what is right. A truth held so firmly it becomes unbreakable. Think of a river carving a canyon. The water isn't violent, it's soft, flowing, calm. Yet, over years, that persistent, gentle movement wears away rock, creating something vast. That river holds quiet, unyielding power. It doesn't scream. Its patient journey changes everything. Throughout history, we've met people like this. They didn't carry swords or lead armies. Instead, they carried powerful ideas about fairness, truth, and kindness. Their way was often peaceful, but the point they proved, that was anything but weak. It challenged how things were. It quietly urged others to look deep into their hearts, to question the world. Imagine someone who believed in equality, so much they'd simply sit, calmly, in forbidden places. They weren't throwing punches or yelling. They were just present. Their gentle, firm being spoke volumes. This quiet refusal to be anything but peaceful was a profound statement. It chipped away at injustice, not with battle, but with a persistent truth that echoed in its silence. So, here's what we can learn. Real strength isn't always a tough exterior or a loud voice. Sometimes, it lives in a heart so gentle it refuses anger, even when surrounded by it. And that gentle, unyielding strength, held on to with all your being, can reshape the world. It often outlasts the person who first embodied it, leaving a quiet, powerful legacy that whispers through time, reminding us of a gentle soul's enduring power. The unfinished symphony of change. Have you ever listened to a beautiful song and wished it would just go on forever? Or seen a painting that felt like it had more to say? Well, here's the thing. Some of the deepest ideas, the ones that brave thinkers lived and died for, are a lot like that. They don't truly end. They are part of what we can call an unfinished symphony. When we talk about the great thinkers who made a point so strongly it cost them everything, their ideas didn't just vanish when they did. No, those ideas kept going. Think of it like a river. It flows past one town, then another, and another. The river isn't the town. It's the constant movement that connects everything, even as the landscape changes. The points they made, the truths they fought for, became like powerful melodies that others picked up. For a long time, people thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Then, people like Copernicus and Galileo looked closer. They saw something different. Galileo faced huge trouble for his ideas, but his work didn't just stop there. Other scientists, centuries later, used his way of thinking, adding new discoveries. Isaac Newton built on those ideas. Then Albert Einstein added even more. It's like different musicians adding new movements or instruments to the same grand piece of music. The original notes from Galileo are still there, but the symphony grew, became richer. Think about how you learn something new, like riding a bike. You start, maybe you fall, you get up, you learn, and then maybe you teach someone else, and they learn a new trick you never even thought of. Your journey didn't end when you mastered it. It opened a path for someone else to keep riding, keep exploring. So, the stories of those thinkers, the ones who died proving a point, they are not tales with a sudden, final end. They are just one powerful movement in a much longer, grander piece of music. And that music is still playing. We, right now, are the next players in this ongoing symphony. Our own thoughts, our own actions add to its beautiful, never-ending tune. The melody of change keeps going, always unfinished, always inviting new notes from us all. Their sacrifice, our lesson. Have you ever thought about what it means when someone stands up for an idea, giving everything for it? It's a deep thought, right? For many thinkers, sharing beliefs wasn't just a discussion. It was a huge risk. They believed truths so deeply they refused to give up, even facing danger or death. They saw a clearer world and felt a strong need to share it, even if it meant going against everyone. Imagine a time when saying the Earth orbited the Sun could bring serious trouble. Questioning old accepted ways could make you an enemy of powerful leaders. These thinkers weren't just curious. They were brave. They faced ridicule, prison, or worse, because their ideas challenged what people believed. Their courage wasn't stubbornness. It was about holding on to what they knew was real. Think about a science class. You do an experiment, see the results, and know what happened, even if it's not what everyone expected. You'd explain your findings. Right. Now, imagine if explaining those results meant losing everything. It's like an early doctor who studied a terrible disease. They knew they could catch it, just to find a cure for future generations. They risked their own well-being to help countless others. Their final moments weren't just an end. They were a lasting echo. They showed us the power of holding on to truth, even when it's painful. Because of their sacrifices, we now have more knowledge and freedom to think. Their stories gently remind us that progress often comes with a cost. We learn from their journey to be curious, to question, and to value the brave voices who, even in silence, speak volumes through the legacy they left behind. The cost of opening minds. Have you ever thought about how much a new idea can cost? Not money, but something deeper. Sometimes, bringing a fresh thought into the world, or even just accepting one, can be really hard. It can shake things up inside us and around us. For centuries, when brave thinkers saw the world differently, they often faced big challenges. Imagine trying to tell everyone the earth wasn't flat, or that the sun, not the earth, was the center of everything. People had believed the old ways for so long. Their minds were set. So, when someone showed a new truth, it felt like a threat to everything familiar. It wasn't always easy for the thinkers, and it wasn't easy for the people hearing the new ideas, either. It challenged everything they thought they knew. Think about learning something new that totally changes your mind about something you were sure of. Like maybe you thought a certain food was gross, but then you tried it, and it was actually delicious. Or you believed a friend was a certain way, and then you saw a different side of them that made you rethink everything. That feeling, that little jolt of surprise and the need to adjust your thinking, that's a small taste of this cost. It's like when you're building something with LEGOs, and you realize a piece is in the wrong spot, but it means taking apart a whole section to fix it. It takes effort, and it might feel like a step backward at first, but it makes the whole structure stronger. The thinkers we talk about, the ones who died proving a point, they paid a much higher price. They didn't just change their minds, they helped change the world's mind. And that's a lonely, difficult journey. But here's the thing, it's through this struggle, this deep work of questioning and exploring, that we grow. It's a quiet bravery, often unseen, but it allows new light to enter. Each time a mind opens, even with a struggle, the world becomes a little bigger, a little truer, and that's why it matters. A beacon lit, never to fade. Have you ever thought about how some lights, once lit, just never seem to go out? It's kind of like that with ideas, especially big ones. Imagine thinkers from long ago, who believed in something so strongly, they kept speaking their truth even when it was dangerous. These were people who faced real challenges, sometimes even giving their lives for what they thought was right. Their stories might seem sad at first, but here's the thing, their ending wasn't the end of their ideas. Instead, their courage made those ideas shine even brighter. Think of it like a lighthouse. A lighthouse stands strong against big waves and dark storms. Its light guides ships safely to shore, and even after the person who built it is gone, that beam still cuts through the night. The light doesn't fade. It just keeps doing its work. It's the same with these brave thinkers. They were like lighthouses for human thought. They put forth ideas about justice, freedom, or how we should treat each other. Maybe the world wasn't ready to hear them then, or maybe powerful people didn't like what they said. But their words, their thoughts, they became a beacon. They became a guiding light for future generations. So, when we look back at their lives, we're not just seeing an end, we're seeing a beginning. A light passed on, from one mind to another, across centuries. It tells us that what we believe, and how we stand up for it, can truly matter. Their courage reminds us that even after a person is gone, the truth they fought for can still light up our world, helping us find our way. The final chapter of Bravehearts. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to believe in something so deeply that you would stand by it, no matter what? We're talking about thinkers, bravehearts really, who held on to a truth even when it meant facing the very end. These weren't people looking for trouble. Instead, they were often quiet individuals who simply saw the world in a new, clearer way. And that new way of seeing things, those powerful ideas, sometimes clashed with the old ways, the established powers. Throughout history, there are stories of people who uncovered truths or shared thoughts that were too big, too important, for some to handle. It's like when scientists first said the Earth goes around the sun, not the other way around. That idea was not just a science fact. It changed everything people thought they knew about their place in the universe, and for some, that change felt scary. So, those who spoke the new truth often faced strong pushback, even danger. Think about it this way. Imagine you've discovered a really simple way to solve a tough math problem, a way nobody else has thought of. You know it's correct, and it helps everyone understand. But the teacher, or maybe even your friends, are used to the old, harder way. They might get upset because your new way makes them rethink things. What if they told you to stop talking about it? Would you? Or would you keep sharing your simpler, truer method because you know it helps others learn? For these thinkers, their final chapter wasn't just an end. It was often the loudest statement of all. It showed how much they valued their understanding, their vision for a better world, more than their own safety. Their ideas, whispered or shouted, became seeds planted in the minds of others, and those seeds grew, slowly but surely, changing the world long after they were gone. It reminds us that truth, even when it costs dearly, has a power that never truly fades. The weight of a different idea. Have you ever had a thought, a single idea, that felt too big for the room? It's like a whisper, but it carries the weight of a boulder. This isn't just about being right. It's about holding on to something when everyone around you believes the opposite. It's about the quiet, heavy feeling of a truly different idea. For centuries, thinkers have carried such burdens. Imagine a world where everyone believed the earth was flat, or that the sun spun around our planet. Saying something different wasn't just wrong, it was seen as crazy, maybe even dangerous. These ideas challenged what was known, what was comfortable, what was held true by everyone. To stand alone with such a thought required a deep, hidden courage. It's a bit like when you have a brilliant idea for a school project, but it's completely different from what everyone else expects. Maybe it's a crazy new way to present history, using a game instead of a report. You know it's good, you can feel it, but everyone looks at you weird. They might even laugh. That feeling of being alone with your conviction, multiply it by 1,000,000, and add the risk of losing everything that matters. Sometimes, the quiet courage to hold that different idea, even when it's heavy, is what truly changes the world. It might take years, maybe even centuries, for that idea to finally find its light and be understood. But the echo of that brave thought, born in solitude, can shake the very ground beneath our feet, long after its thinker is gone. It shows us that even the smallest, most unique thought can have an eternal ripple, a testament written in blood. Have you ever thought about how much a person can believe? Not just think something is true, but feel it in their bones, so much that it shapes their entire life. Sometimes for some thinkers, their final moments on earth became the most powerful statement of all. This is what we mean by a testament written in blood. It's a deeply emotional idea. It means someone died for their beliefs, for a truth they felt was so important, they couldn't give it up. Their very life, and its ending, became a powerful kind of proof. It wasn't about being famous or getting revenge. It was about standing for an idea, a principle, a way of seeing the world, even when it meant facing the ultimate cost. Their death wasn't just an end, it was an echo, making their message even louder, even clearer, for generations to come. Think about ancient thinkers, like Socrates in old Greece. He believed in asking deep questions, in seeking wisdom, and in discussing what's right and true, even if it made powerful people uncomfortable. He was accused of challenging the gods and confusing young people. He had chances to escape, to deny his words, but he chose not to. He faced his death calmly, drinking poison, because to betray his own search for truth would have been a worse fate for him than dying. His final act wasn't defeat. It was a powerful, silent declaration of what he stood for, and that's why it matters. This isn't just about famous historical figures. Think about a time you knew a truth, a really important one. Maybe it was something quiet, like seeing someone cheat on a test, and knowing it was wrong. Standing up for that truth, even if it means trouble for you, even if it makes others mad, that takes courage. It costs you something deep inside. For these thinkers, the cost was everything. It makes us wonder, doesn't it? What truths are so vital, so deeply felt, that someone would stand for them until their last breath? And what does that tell us about the power of ideas and the human spirit itself? It suggests that some truths are not just things to be learned, but things to be lived, no matter what. The flame of curiosity, burning bright asterisk. Have you ever wondered why the sky is blue? Or why a tiny seed grows into a giant tree? That feeling inside you, that deep need to know, is curiosity. It's a quiet spark at first, but for some, it grows into a roaring flame. It's the engine that pushes us to ask questions, even when answers are hard to find. Think about the very first humans looking at the stars. They didn't know what they were, but they wondered, and that wonder led to questions. Many great thinkers throughout history, the ones we'll talk about, were driven by this same deep hunger to understand. They weren't just curious about little things. They wanted to know about life, about truth, about how the world really works. Sometimes, seeking these answers meant challenging old ideas. Sometimes, it meant great risk. But the flame of curiosity burned too brightly for them to turn away. Imagine you're trying to figure out a really tough puzzle. You keep turning the pieces over and over. You might get frustrated. You might even want to quit. But then, a little part of your brain says, just one more try. What if this piece fits here? That quiet push. That's curiosity. It's the voice that whispers, there's more to discover. Or maybe you've tried to bake a cake, and it didn't turn out right. Instead of giving up, you might wonder, why did it fall flat? And you try again, changing one small thing, because you want to understand. So this isn't just about smart people. It's about the human spirit. It's about wanting to see beyond what everyone already knows. It's about being brave enough to ask the questions others might avoid. The flame of curiosity lights our way, even into the unknown. It reminds us that every step of understanding, no matter how small, begins with a single question. It's what helps us grow, not just our minds, but our souls. The dreamer's last whisper. Have you ever had a dream, an idea, that felt so right, so true, it was almost a part of you? Imagine believing in that idea so deeply that nothing could shake it. Not fear, not threats, not even the end of your own life. This is what we mean by the dreamer's last whisper. It's not about yelling or making a big scene. It's about a quiet, powerful dedication to what someone believed in most, even when everything was on the line. Here's the thing. Throughout history, many thinkers have faced this moment. Take Socrates, for example. He was an ancient Greek philosopher who taught people to question everything, to truly think for themselves. His ideas were about truth and wisdom, but some leaders in Athens thought his teachings were dangerous. They put him on trial. Socrates could have stopped teaching. He could have run away, but he didn't. He believed so much in the importance of honest questioning and living by one's principles that he chose to accept his fate, even if it meant dying for his beliefs. His last whisper wasn't a sound. It was his unwavering stand. Think about it like this. Maybe you have a strong belief about something at school. Maybe you truly believe in a new, fairer way to organize a group project, even if most people want to stick to the old, less fair way. Or perhaps you feel strongly that a certain scientific theory, though unpopular, is actually correct, and you keep trying to show why. You stand by your idea, not because you want to cause trouble, but because you deeply believe it's the right or true thing. That quiet persistence, that inner strength, is a small echo of what these great thinkers showed. Their last whispers weren't just about dying. They were about living fully, truly, for an idea. They remind us that our beliefs can have a power that lasts beyond our lifetime. These quiet acts of courage, these final stands for truth, or a better way, often become the foundation for future change. They show us that one person's calm, steady conviction can light up a path for generations to come. An unyielding spirit, set free. Have you ever wondered what makes someone believe in an idea so strongly they'd give up everything for it? This is what we mean by an unyielding spirit. It's someone whose belief is so strong, part of who they are, that no threat or pressure can make them change their mind. They stand firm, like a strong tree in a storm. And here's the thing. Sometimes, when that spirit is set free through big challenges, or even sadness, their ideas don't die. Instead, they get stronger. They become louder, spreading farther than if the person had just lived a regular life. Think about someone who spoke a truth that made others uncomfortable. In the past, people were sometimes punished for new ideas, especially if those ideas went against powerful leaders. But often, trying to silence someone, or taking their life for their beliefs, did the opposite. It made their message echo, their words unforgettable. Their spirit, even if stopped, became unbound. It wasn't just about winning an argument. It was about the truth, living on. It's kind of like how a tiny seed needs to break open in the ground to grow. Or when you really believe in a project at school. Even if it's hard or someone doubts you, your determination makes you work harder. The final result shines brighter because of that effort. Your commitment makes the idea strong. So, an unyielding spirit isn't just about being stubborn. It's about a deep, quiet courage to stand for what you know is right, even when it's hard. And when that spirit is released, it leaves a kind of light behind. It's a lasting whisper of truth that inspires others, long after the person is gone. It shows us that true strength isn't always about force, but about believing in something and an idea that won't be silenced. The truth he uncovered buried no more what if a great idea, a real truth, could not be silenced, even by death. It sounds strange, right? Like a story from a faraway time. But here's what happened again and again with some thinkers. They found something true, something important, that others didn't want to hear. Maybe it challenged old ways of thinking, or shook up powerful people. So, they tried to bury that truth, hoping it would just fade away. But here's the thing, sometimes, when you try to hide a flame, it only burns brighter. These thinkers, these brave souls, believed in their discoveries so deeply, they refused to back down. They knew what they knew, even when it meant facing danger, even when it meant giving everything. And that's why it matters. Their sacrifice, their courage, became a beacon. Their death wasn't the end of their idea. Instead, it was like a loud, clear voice echoing through history, saying, "Listen, this is real." Think about it like this. Imagine you're working on a puzzle. You see how the pieces fit. You know what the picture is, but everyone around you insists you're wrong, that the pieces don't go together that way. You keep trying. You keep showing them. Then, even if you're no longer there, the puzzle pieces you laid out stay. And eventually, someone else looks, really looks, and they see it too. They see the truth. You worked so hard to show that it's a powerful idea, isn't it, that some truths are so strong, they can't be buried forever, that the human spirit, when it clings to what's right, can make an idea unstoppable. It tells us that even when things seem dark, and truth feels hidden, courage can make it shine. It shows us how one person's stand can change how everyone sees the world, long after they are gone. A hand reaching for justice, even gone, can a whisper for justice truly be heard, long after the voice that spoke it is gone. It's a powerful thought, this idea that a person's fight for what's right doesn't always end when they do. We often think of justice as something happening right now. But what if the call for fairness keeps echoing through time, a hand reaching from the past into our present? Sometimes, people believe so deeply in a better, fairer world, that they risk everything. History shows us thinkers who spoke out, pushing for change, even when it meant great danger. They might have been ancient philosophers debating a good society, or brave individuals standing against unfair laws. For some, their fight ended with their lives. Yet their words, their courage, and their vision for justice didn't die. Their ideas became seeds, planted in the minds of others, growing into movements. Think of a song that stays with you. The songwriter might be gone, but the melody and words can still inspire, make you think, or push for change years later. It's like the song carries the message forward, endlessly. In the same way, these brave thinkers create ripples. They might have died for their beliefs, but their core point, their desire for fairness, keeps moving. It touches new generations, inspiring new fights for what's right. Their work continues. So, even when a voice is silenced, or a hand can no longer physically reach, the idea of justice it held can live on. It reminds us that every act of courage, every thought about what's fair, leaves a lasting mark. And sometimes, that mark grows into a powerful current, gently guiding the world towards a brighter future, simply because someone dared to imagine it, long ago. The silent protest, spoken loud. Have you ever wondered about the quietest moments? The ones where no one speaks, but everything changes. Sometimes, the most powerful messages aren't shouted. They're whispered, or even just lived, until the very end. This idea of a silent protest isn't silent because no one is listening, but because the person isn't arguing with words. They are simply being the truth they believe in, even when it costs them everything. Think about people throughout history who held on to their beliefs so strongly they chose death over giving them up. They weren't trying to cause trouble. They just wouldn't pretend something was true if it wasn't. For them, letting go of their truth felt like losing themselves. Imagine a scientist, centuries ago, who knew the Earth orbited the Sun, even when the world believed the opposite. Society told them they were wrong, even threatened them. But they just knew. Their quiet refusal to speak a lie, even under threat, became their loudest statement. It wasn't a yell. It was a deep, unshakable conviction. Here's the thing. It's a bit like when you know you did the right thing, even if no one else believes you, or if it makes things harder for you. Maybe you saw someone cheat on a test, and you didn't say anything to the teacher, but you also didn't join in. Even though it would have made your grade better. You just quietly did your own work, the way you knew was right. That quiet choice, that refusal to go against what you know is right, speaks volumes about who you are. The thinkers we talk about, who died proving a point, didn't always choose to die, but they chose their truth, and that choice became their final, powerful message. Their deaths became echoes, not of defeat, but of an unbroken spirit. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound protest against injustice or falsehood is simply to stand firm in your own truth, quietly, completely, until the very end. And that's why it matters. The silent protest, spoken loud. Have you ever wondered about the quietest moments, the ones where no one speaks, but everything changes? Sometimes the most powerful messages aren't shouted, they're whispered, or even just lived, until the very end. This idea of a silent protest isn't silent because no one is listening, but because the person isn't arguing with words. They are simply being the truth they believe in, even when it costs them everything. Think about people throughout history who held on to their beliefs so strongly they chose death over giving them up. They weren't trying to cause trouble. They just wouldn't pretend something was true if it wasn't. For them, letting go of their truth felt like losing themselves. Imagine a scientist, centuries ago, who knew the Earth orbited the Sun, even when the world believed the opposite. Society told them they were wrong, even threatened them, but they just knew. Their quiet refusal to speak a lie, even under threat, became their loudest statement. It wasn't a yell. It was a deep, unshakable conviction. Here's the thing. It's a bit like when you know you did the right thing, even if no one else believes you, or if it makes things harder for you. Maybe you saw someone cheat on a test, and you didn't say anything to the teacher, but you also didn't join in, even though it would have made your grade better. You just quietly did your own work, the way you knew was right. That quiet choice, that refusal to go against what you know is right, speaks volumes about who you are. The thinkers we talk about, who died proving a point, didn't always choose to die, but they chose their truth, and that choice became their final, powerful message. Their deaths became echoes, not of defeat, but of an unbroken spirit. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound protest against injustice or falsehood is simply to stand firm in your own truth, quietly, completely, until the very end. And that's why it matters. A life poured out for others. Have you ever wondered what it means to give everything you have for something truly important? Not just a little bit, but your whole self. This idea, a life poured out for others, is about exactly that. It means someone has used all their energy, their talent, their time, and even their very being, to serve a purpose beyond themselves. Think of it like a pitcher of water. Instead of keeping the water inside, it pours it all out, drop by drop, to nourish a plant or quench someone's thirst. The pitcher becomes empty, but its purpose is fulfilled. Throughout history, and even today, there are people who live this way. They might be thinkers, artists, scientists, or even everyday heroes. They believe so deeply in an idea or in helping others that their own lives become tools for that belief. It's not about being famous or getting rich. It's about a quiet, powerful dedication. They see a way to make the world better, and they give everything to that goal. Their journey might be hard, full of struggle, but they keep going because the cause is bigger than their own comfort. Think about a doctor who dedicates decades to understanding a complex disease. They work late nights, miss holidays, driven by the hope of finding a cure that will help countless people they've never met. Every hour spent studying, every difficult case faced, is a part of their life being poured out. It's a deep kind of generosity, a silent promise. They empty themselves, not to become nothing, but so that something greater can be filled. When we think about these lives, it teaches us something simple yet profound. It shows us that true meaning can often be found in giving, in connecting with something larger than our own needs. It reminds us that one person's deep commitment, one life poured out with purpose, can truly leave a lasting mark on the world, like a river carving its path through stone, not through force, but through steady, constant flow. The courage to be different. Have you ever felt, deep down, that something was true, even when everyone else believed differently? It's a quiet feeling, like a whisper in your heart that goes against the loud voices around you. That's the courage. To be different. For a long time, people tended to follow the crowd. It felt safe. It's easier to agree than to question. But sometimes, a person comes along who can't do that. They see things in a new way. They might look at the stars and wonder if the earth is the center of everything. They speak their truth, even if it means standing alone. Think about Galileo. Centuries ago, most people believed the sun went round the earth, but Galileo, using his observations, said, "No, the earth goes around the sun." Imagine saying something that goes against what everyone believes. That takes real bravery. It's about trusting your own mind, even when it's scary. Here's the thing, you don't have to be a scientist to know this feeling. Maybe it's in a group project, and you see a better way to solve a problem, but everyone wants to stick to the old method. It takes courage to say, "What if we tried this?" Or maybe it's standing up for someone being treated unfairly, even if it means you become unpopular. That quiet voice, that belief in what's right, that's true courage. These thinkers matter so much. They weren't just proving ideas, they were proving points with their lives. They showed us that sometimes the most important journey is following your own inner compass. It leads you far from the usual path. It's a beautiful, challenging, and deeply human act to dare to think for yourself. The price of thinking beyond. Have you ever wondered why new ideas, even good ones, can sometimes be scary for people? It's strange, but thinking in a truly new way, seeing truths others can't or won't, often comes with a real cost. Sometimes, that cost is just being misunderstood. But for some thinkers throughout history, the price was much higher. Here's the thing, societies often build themselves on certain beliefs and rules. These rules might be about how the world works, or how people should live, or what is true. When someone says, "What if it's different? What if the earth goes around the sun, not the other way?" That idea can feel like it's shaking the ground. Everyone stands on, challenges everything people believed was certain, and challenging what's certain can make powerful people uncomfortable. Even angry. Think about someone at school who finds a totally different way to solve a math problem, when everyone else uses the old method. Or maybe a friend suggests a new game that seems weird at first. It takes courage to put that idea out there, especially if people might laugh or resist it. It feels risky, right? Imagine that risk multiplied 1,000 times, where your new idea is about truth or freedom, not just a game. These thinkers, who saw further, often stood alone. They believed in their questions, even when facing opposition. They paid a price for daring to imagine a world different from the one everyone knew. But because they paid that price, because they insisted on looking beyond what was comfortable, we now stand on the shoulders of their courage. Their deep thoughts, once seen as dangerous, became foundations for how we understand our world. It reminds us that big steps forward often begin with one person bravely wondering what if. A voice that wouldn't break. Have you ever known something so deeply true, felt it in your bones, that you just couldn't keep it to yourself, even if speaking up might mean trouble? This is about those voices, the ones that refused to be silenced, even when the world pressed down hard. It's a powerful idea, a voice that wouldn't break. This isn't just about a sound, it's about a person's core belief, their deepest truth, holding firm against everything. Imagine a wise thinker, centuries ago, who saw the world differently. Maybe they believed in a new way of living, or argued for justice when no one else would. What they said challenged the usual way of thinking, and sometimes that was seen as a threat, but they knew what they said was right. So, they kept speaking, even when it cost them everything, even their lives. Here's how it works. Think of a tiny seed. It's small, but inside it holds the blueprint for a giant tree. You can bury it, step on it, but if it has what it needs, that seed pushes up with an incredible force, determined to grow. It has an inner strength that won't break. That's like these voices. Their ideas, their truths, were like seeds, planted deep within them. No matter what happened, that truth couldn't be crushed. It would find a way to grow, to spread, to be heard. Sometimes, the most enduring messages aren't shouted from mountaintops, but whispered with quiet conviction, a truth so strong it echoes through time. These unwavering voices, even when they seem to fade, leave behind a lasting echo. They remind us that some truths are so vital, so strong, that they can't truly die. And that's why it matters. The strength of one voice, speaking its truth without breaking, can still inspire us all to listen, and maybe even to find our own. Their story, a cry for change. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to stand up for something you believe in, even when it might cost you everything? Imagine holding on to a truth so tightly, so purely, that you're willing to face the darkest fear just to share it. Many thinkers throughout history did exactly this. They saw things differently. They looked at the world with fresh eyes, asking tough questions about society, about the universe, about what it means to be human, and they spoke truths that others weren't ready to hear. Sometimes, this meant their ideas were seen as dangerous. They were considered threats to old ways of thinking, to people in power, or to what everyone simply accepted as the truth. Think about a time you knew a simple, obvious fact, like that the earth goes around the sun, or that washing your hands helps stop sickness from spreading. Now imagine trying to tell everyone that simple fact, but they refuse to believe you. They might even get angry or try to silence you. For some thinkers, their big, groundbreaking ideas felt just like this. They weren't trying to cause trouble or be rebellious. They were just sharing what they understood about the world, about people, about justice, based on their deep thinking and careful observation. But society, at that moment, just wasn't ready to hear it. Here's the thing, sometimes for these brave souls, proving a point meant giving up their freedom, or their peace, or even their very life. Their stories are not just sad tales from the past, they are powerful echoes, still sounding today. Each life they lived, each struggle they faced, each final breath they took, it all whispered one clear message across time. Look closer, think deeper, question everything. Change is possible. These thinkers weren't seeking fame or fortune, they were seeking understanding, a better way for humanity to live, to grow, to see itself. They taught us that ideas, even tiny ones, can be incredibly strong. And sometimes, the most profound and necessary changes in the world don't start with a loud protest or a grand announcement. They begin with a quiet, unwavering stand by someone who simply refuses to abandon what they know to be true. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what uncomfortable truths are waiting to be shared now, in our own time, and who among us will be brave enough to speak them? The seeds of tomorrow, planted today. Have you ever wondered what happens to a thought after someone thinks it? Or what happens to an idea when the person who had it is no longer here? It's a quiet, beautiful truth. Ideas don't really die. They're like seeds. When a thinker leaves us, their ideas, their questions, and their discoveries don't just disappear. Instead, they get planted in the minds of others, waiting to grow. We still read words from ancient Greek thinkers like Plato, who lived thousands of years ago. We still use math principles from their time. Their ideas traveled through time, shared. Through books and lessons, these old thoughts became the soil for new ones. Each generation builds on what came before, adding leaves and branches to this knowledge tree. So, much of what we learn today, in science class, in stories, in how we think about fairness began as tiny seeds in someone's mind long ago. Think of something simple, like the invention of the bicycle. At first, it was just an idea, maybe a sketch on paper, but that idea was a seed. Someone built it, then others rode it, improved it, changed it. That first bike led to mountain bikes, racing bikes, and even helped inspire cars and airplanes. The first inventor didn't see all that, but their single idea bloomed into a whole new way for people to move. And here's why it matters. Every question you ask, every piece of knowledge you gain, every kind thought you share, these are your own seeds. You're planting them, not just for yourself, but for the future. The thinkers we remember, who stood by their beliefs even unto death, didn't just finish their work, they started something that keeps growing, long after they're gone. Their lives remind us that what we do today, what we learn, what we stand for, truly helps shape the world tomorrow. It's like tending a garden that will bloom for generations. The burden of foresight. Have you ever known something was true, deep in your gut, long before anyone else caught on? It's like seeing a flicker of lightning miles away, knowing a storm is coming while everyone else enjoys the sunshine. That feeling, that knowing ahead of time, is a kind of foresight. It's more than just guessing. It's seeing a truth, a pattern, or a future consequence that others simply can't grasp yet. Here's the thing, foresight isn't always a gift. Sometimes it feels like a heavy weight. Imagine someone like Galileo. He looked at the stars and, through careful observation, saw that the earth moved around the sun, not the other way around. Most people believed the earth was the center of everything. His foresight, his ability to see beyond what was commonly accepted, was profound. But it also put him at odds with nearly everyone, even powerful people who didn't want to hear it. He knew a truth, but the world wasn't ready. It's a lonely path, understanding something so clearly when no one else does. Think about being the first person in your group to realize that a new trend, maybe a certain type of music or a style of art, is going to explode in popularity. You try to tell your friends, but they just shrugged. They might even make fun of you. Then, a few months later, suddenly everyone is into it. You were right. You saw it coming. That's a small example of foresight. But what if the truth you saw was about something much bigger, something that challenged how people lived or what they believed? What if it meant telling people something they really didn't want to hear? That's the burden. It's a quiet ache, knowing what's true when it goes against everything society holds dear. Many thinkers carried this burden. They tried to share their light, their understanding, hoping to guide others. But sometimes, people prefer the dark or the familiar. And so, these thinkers walked a solitary road, often facing ridicule or worse. Their foresight, while brilliant, could also be a source of immense sorrow and struggle. It forced them to live in a future that hadn't yet arrived for anyone else. It's a reminder that sometimes, the greatest insights come at the greatest cost. A truth spoken, though it hurt. Have you ever known something was true, deep down, but saying it felt really hard? Maybe it was unpopular, or went against what everyone else thought. That feeling, that moment of choosing to speak up anyway, is what we're exploring here. Sometimes a truth isn't just a fact, it's a mirror. It shows us things we might not want to see. For some thinkers throughout history, speaking these difficult truths wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Imagine realizing something about the stars that no one else believes. They might think stars are tiny holes, but you see vast suns, and sharing your idea could get you laughed at, or worse. For centuries, people held on to old ideas. Sometimes these were comforting, or challenging them felt like shaking the ground beneath their feet. But then, a thoughtful mind would come along. They would piece together clues, test ideas, and arrive at a new understanding. This new truth, even if it was simple and clear to them, might change what everyone always thought. Think about this. Imagine your friend has a great idea for a project, but you see a big problem that will make it fail. It's hard to tell them, right? You don't want to hurt their feelings, but deep down, you know telling them the truth, even if uncomfortable, is the right thing. It helps everyone in the long run. It helps the project succeed. That courage, to speak what you truly believe, even when it's met with doubt or anger, is a special kind of bravery. It's a quiet strength, a trust in what your mind has found. And it reminds us that sometimes, the most important lessons, those that help humanity grow, are the ones that hurt to hear at first. But they are also the ones that set us free. The enduring power of ideas. Have you ever stopped to think about a thought, a single idea? It's born in someone's mind, a tiny spark. But here's the thing, unlike a person, an idea doesn't really die. It can live on, sometimes for hundreds, even thousands of years, moving from one mind to another. Imagine an idea like a whisper carried on the wind. It might start in one place, but then it travels. It finds new ears, new hearts. It changes people. It can grow stronger, like a tiny seed that becomes a giant tree, spreading its roots. This tree of thought stands tall even when the gardener is long gone. Think about some big ideas we still talk about. Plato, who lived thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, wrote down his thoughts on justice and truth, and the idea of human rights, that every person deserves respect. These were just ideas once, but they caught on. They were shared. They shaped laws and societies long after their creators were gone. It's like how we learn to ride a bike. Someone, long ago, came up with the idea of 2 wheels and pedals. That idea was shared, improved, and now millions ride bikes every day. The inventor isn't here, but their idea rides on. Or, think about a simple act of kindness. When one person shows kindness, it's an idea that can inspire others. It spreads, it's felt and understood, even without words. So, what does this tell us? It means our own thoughts, our dreams, and our choices can have a longer reach than we might ever imagine. The things we create, the kindness we show, the questions we ask, they are not just for today. They can become part of that enduring whisper, helping to shape the world long after we're gone. It's a quiet power, but a very real one. The sacrifice that shaped history. Have you ever wondered why someone would give up everything, even their own life, for an idea? It feels deeply important to think about, doesn't it? Throughout history, certain brilliant minds believed in something so truly, so profoundly, they wouldn't back down. Their courage, their ultimate sacrifice, wasn't just an ending. It was a powerful beginning, shaping the very path we walk on today. Imagine a time when speaking a truth could be incredibly dangerous. Picture a world where saying the Earth orbits the Sun was a wild, even criminal, idea. People clung to old beliefs. Challenging those ideas was seen as a threat. So, these brave individuals stood firm. They didn't just write books, they lived their convictions. Sometimes, tragically, they died for them. They proved their point, not just with arguments, but with the cost of their existence. It's a bit like knowing deep down that something is right, even if everyone else disagrees. Maybe you see someone treated unfairly at school, and you know you should speak up, even if it feels scary. Or perhaps you found a new way to solve a problem that no one else sees. You patiently explain it, even if others doubt you. That feeling of holding on to your truth, that inner strength, is a tiny echo of what these great thinkers felt on a much larger, more dangerous scale. Their final acts weren't just about a life ending. They were powerful, echoing statements through time. Each sacrifice was like a single, precious seed planted in history's quiet soil. It took many years, sometimes centuries, but those seeds grew. They became the vital freedoms we often take for granted today. The freedom to question, to explore new ideas, to learn without fear, to think for ourselves. We see more than just sad endings. We see moments where profound belief and quiet courage changed the world forever, leaving us with a lasting gratitude for the brave spirits who lit our way. The light of reason, never extinguished. Have you ever thought about how a story lives on, even after the person who told it is gone? It's a bit like that with important ideas, too. For centuries, people have tried to understand the world, to find out what's true, to think new thoughts. Sometimes, these thinkers faced huge problems for their ideas. Some even died because what they believed went against what everyone else thought. But here's the thing, while their lives ended, their ideas did not. It's like a tiny flame passed from one candle to another. The first candle might burn out, but its light keeps going, carried by the next one, and the next. That light is what we call reason, the ability to think clearly, to question, to use logic to figure things out. When someone like Galileo, hundreds of years ago, looked at the stars with his telescope, he saw things that changed how people understood our place in the universe. Many didn't want to believe him. They put him on trial because his discoveries challenged old ideas. But his observations, his way of using evidence and logic, couldn't be unseen or unthought. His ideas, and the way he thought, became part of the flame passed on to other scientists, other curious minds. Think about how we learn in science class today. We start with basic rules and facts, building on what others discovered long ago. Every invention, every new understanding in medicine or technology, stands on the shoulders of those who came before. It's like a massive puzzle, and each thinker added a piece, even if their own piece seemed small at the time. So, even when a thinker's journey ended, the light of their reason, their search for truth, simply joined a bigger, brighter flame. It reminds us that knowledge isn't just owned by one person. It's a shared human journey, a quiet promise that the search for understanding will always continue, growing brighter with every mind that chooses to question and to learn. It's a light that truly never goes out, a path marked by brave footsteps. Have you ever thought about what it means to truly believe in something, so strongly that you'd risk everything for it? We're talking about a path here, not one on a map, but a journey taken by brave thinkers. This path is marked by their footsteps, each one showing courage. It's about people who stood for what they knew was true, even when it was the hardest thing to do, even when it cost them their lives. For centuries, certain individuals saw the world differently. They asked questions no one else dared. They found answers that went against what most people believed. Imagine a time when saying the Earth orbited the Sun was dangerous, or questioning powerful leaders could get you into serious trouble. These thinkers, with quiet strength, chose to speak their truth. Their ideas were like tiny sparks, lit in the darkness, meant to bring more light. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a group, and everyone believes something you know isn't right. Maybe it's a rumor about a friend, or a wrong answer to a class question that everyone agrees on. It takes real bravery to speak up, to say, "No, I think it's actually this way," even if you stand alone for a moment. That small act of courage, it's a tiny echo of the brave footsteps we're talking about here. The path these thinkers walked was often lonely, often shadowed by anger, but their steps, though sometimes ending sadly, weren't wasted. Instead, they carved out a clearer way for those who followed. Their sacrifices became like lighthouses, shining across time, guiding us toward deeper understanding. Each one reminds us that the quiet voice of truth, spoken with a brave heart, can echo through centuries, changing the world long after the speaker is gone. It shows us the deep value of standing firm for what is right. Their final stand, a call to arms. Have you ever believed in something so deeply that giving it up felt impossible? Not just a favorite game, but an idea, a truth, something in your very bones. For some thinkers, their ideas were the very air they breathed, and sometimes, standing by those ideas meant facing the ultimate test. This section is about the moment these great minds made their final stand. It wasn't a battle with swords, but a quiet, powerful refusal to betray what they knew was true. Imagine a world where new ideas were dangerous, where challenging old ways could lead to trouble. Throughout history, people who dared to see the world differently often found themselves alone against powerful forces. Their final stands were not about choosing to die, but about choosing not to surrender their truth. They let their ideas shine, even if it meant stepping into the dark. Think about a time you worked hard on a science project, proving your hypothesis. You know your results are right. What if someone important tried to force you to change your findings? You'd feel that pull inside, wouldn't you? That instinct to protect the truth you discovered. That's a tiny glimpse of the courage we're talking about. These thinkers faced that moment, not just about a project, but about the nature of the universe, or the rights of people. So, their ending wasn't just an ending, it was a declaration. It was their way of saying, here is what I believe, and it matters more than my own comfort, more than my own life. Their stories echo through time, not as sad songs, but as a quiet, powerful call. They whisper to us, inviting us to consider what truths we hold dear, and what we might be willing to stand for, not with grand gestures, but with the quiet courage of our own convictions, every single day. The unbroken spirit of inquiry, what inside us keeps pushing, keeps asking, even when answers are hard to find. Sometimes, when we learn something new, we hit a wall. Maybe it feels too big, too confusing, but for some, a quiet strength keeps them searching. This is the unbroken spirit of inquiry. It's a deep inner drive to seek understanding, no matter the cost. It's like a never-ending journey in your mind, always curious. Here's the thing. Throughout history, many people believed in this journey so strongly they risked everything. Think of old thinkers who asked big questions about the stars or how the world worked. People like Galileo, who looked through his telescope and saw things that changed how everyone thought about the universe. His ideas were not popular, facing serious challenges, but he kept observing, kept questioning. He had to know the truth. This wasn't about stubbornness, but a deep need to understand, a quiet fire that couldn't be put out. They just needed to know. You might feel this spirit in your own life. Imagine you're trying to solve a really tough puzzle, or learning to play a complicated song on an instrument. At first, it's frustrating. You might want to quit. But then, a little voice whispers, just one more try. You try a new piece, a different fingering, another approach. That quiet push, that refusal to give up, that's it. It's a spark of that same deep human curiosity. It's that brave part of you that refuses to let the unknown win. So, this spirit isn't just for famous people in history books. It lives in each of us. It's the quiet wonder urging us to look closer, the gentle courage to ask again. It connects us to everyone who ever dared to wonder, looked beyond what was known, and helped us see the world more clearly. And that's why it matters. Asking questions is a powerful thing, a quiet act of hope that never truly ends. The lessons learned in loss. Have you ever wondered what stays behind when someone important leaves us, especially when they stood for something so huge? Sometimes, the biggest lessons we learn come not from what we gain, but from a profound kind of loss. For the thinkers we talk about, their lives, and even their final moments, often became the world's most powerful classroom. Their passing wasn't an end, but a deep echo that made their ideas resonate louder. Throughout history, people have pulled wisdom from unexpected places. Many cultures shared stories of wise figures whose difficult endings helped their ideas finally click for everyone. It's like their spirit, even after they were gone, kept teaching, making their messages shine brighter. Think about a scientist working for years on a complex puzzle. Maybe their last experiment doesn't work out as they hoped. It might seem like a big failure, a real loss of effort. But then, another scientist, later, looks closely at their notes, studying that failed experiment. And because of that apparent loss, they suddenly discover something new, a missing piece that leads to a breakthrough. The first scientist's loss wasn't an end. It was the quiet turning point for new understanding. So, when we remember these thinkers who gave everything for what they believed, their stories are not just sad tales. They are like deep pools of wisdom. Their lives, and how they ended, help us see the truth they reached for. It's a gentle reminder that even from sorrow, real insight can bloom. What they stood for, what they proved, can never truly be lost. It lives on, quietly shaping our thoughts and the world we share. A dream worth dying for. Have you ever believed in something so deeply that it felt like part of your own heart? Think about a truth that shone so bright, it became more real than anything else. For some thinkers, their ideas weren't just thoughts. In their head, they were like a burning fire, a map to a better world, a secret whispered by the universe. They had a profound sense of what must be true. And here's the thing, sometimes, holding on to those deep truths meant facing huge challenges. It meant standing alone, even when everyone else disagreed. It meant saying, this is what I believe, and I cannot change it, no matter the cost. It wasn't about being stubborn. It was about the unwavering conviction that their discovery or their way of thinking held a vital key. They weren't just defending an opinion. They were defending a vision for humanity. A piece of essential understanding. Imagine someone like Socrates, long ago in ancient Greece. He believed in asking tough questions, in truly knowing yourself. But not everyone liked his questions. He could have stopped. He could have pretended to agree, but he didn't. His idea of finding truth was so important to him, so much a part of who he was, that he chose to die rather than give it up, or betray his own mind. Or think of people who looked at the stars and saw something different from what everyone else believed. They saw Earth moving around the sun, not the other way around. This was a massive idea. It changed everything, but it also upset powerful people who liked the old ways. They often faced ridicule, even danger, because their truth shook the foundations of society. This is kind of like when you know something is right, even if it's hard. Maybe you see someone being unfair to a new kid. You could stay quiet, or you could speak up. Speaking up might make things awkward, but sometimes your belief in fairness, in what's right, is so strong, you just have to act on it. It's a small, daily act of standing by your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. These thinkers, in their own ways, showed us the powerful strength of a human spirit committed to an idea. They remind us that some dreams, some understandings of the world are so vital, so deeply felt, that they become worth protecting with everything you have. Their stories aren't just about death. They're about the life and lasting power of ideas that continue to light our way, long after the people themselves are gone. Their quiet courage echoes through time. The Quiet Revolutionaries. Have you ever thought about how some of the biggest changes in the world began not with a loud bang, but with a quiet thought? We often imagine heroes who fight wars or lead protests. But then there are the Quiet Revolutionaries. Their battleground wasn't a field of soldiers, but the vast, silent space inside their own minds. Their weapon wasn't a sword, but an idea. These were thinkers whose brave acts were simply to question, to imagine, to write down thoughts that might seem small at first. Maybe their ideas challenged everything people believed about the world, or about fairness, or about how we treat each other. It took immense courage to stand by these thoughts, even when they went against powerful rules or common beliefs. And sometimes, just for sharing those quiet thoughts, they paid a very high price. Their death wasn't always a physical end. It could be the death of their freedom, their good name, or their comfortable life, all because they wouldn't back down from a truth they saw. Think of it like this. Imagine a tiny, almost invisible seed planted deep underground. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but inside that seed, something amazing is happening. Roots are reaching down, a sprout is pushing up, quietly, steadily. Over time, that tiny seed can grow into a massive tree, strong enough to change the very landscape around it. The seed is the quiet idea. The thinker's dedication, their dying for a point, is the hidden, slow pressure that allows that idea to grow. Their stories remind us that true power isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes, the most powerful thing is a truth spoken softly, an idea shared quietly, which then spreads and changes minds and hearts, even long after the person who first thought it is gone. Their ideas live on, like echoes through time, proving their point in ways that no shout ever could. The truth in every scar. Have you ever looked at a scar on your own skin? Maybe from when you fell off your bike, or a scraped knee from a long time ago. What does that mark tell you? It's not just a sign of pain, is it? It's also a story. It tells you that something happened, that you got through it, and that you healed. It reminds you that you learned something important. Here's the thing. Many of the great thinkers we talk about also carried scars. Not always on their skin, but deep within their lives and their work. These were the marks left by their struggles. These thinkers dared to ask big questions, questions that often challenged what everyone else believed. Sometimes, the truth they found was so new, so different, that people around them felt scared or angry. And for speaking that truth, these brave souls faced rejection, ridicule, and even great danger. Think about someone trying to figure out how the stars move, or why we feel certain emotions. Imagine them spending years, maybe their whole lives, searching for answers, often alone. They might have been told they were wrong, or crazy, but they kept going. It's like a scientist working on an experiment that fails over and over again. Each failed try leaves a mark, a scar of effort, but each scar also teaches them something vital, leading them closer to a breakthrough. Without those hard parts, the big discovery wouldn't happen. So when we think of thinkers who died proving a point, we're not just remembering sad endings, we're also seeing the truth in every scar they carried. Those scars are proof of their courage. They show how much they believed in their ideas. They remind us that every step forward, every new understanding, often comes with a cost. And in that cost, in those scars, lies the deep, quiet power of truth, patiently waiting to be seen. A legacy forged in fire. Have you ever wondered if an idea can truly die? If someone speaks a truth, something important, but then faces terrible challenges for it, does that truth just fade away? Here's the thing. Sometimes, the most powerful ideas are like metal put into a very hot fire. The fire tries to break them, to melt them down completely. But if the metal is strong enough, it doesn't break. Instead, it comes out stronger, reshaped, maybe even shining brighter. This is what we mean when we talk about a legacy forged in fire. Throughout history, brave thinkers stood up for what they believed was right or true, even when it was incredibly difficult. They might have been laughed at, ignored, or worse, punished for their ideas, but even if the person was silenced, their idea often found a way to live on. It's like a quiet whisper that passes from one person to another, slowly growing louder, finding its way into more minds. The struggles these thinkers faced, the challenges they overcame, didn't destroy their message. Instead, those very struggles hardened the ideas, proving their strength and value. Think about a new scientific idea that wasn't popular at first. Maybe a scientist discovered something that changed everything people thought they knew, but it was so new and different that others couldn't accept it. People might have doubted them, or even tried to stop their work. But the truth, like a tiny seed pushing up through tough soil, kept pushing. And eventually, that small seed grew into a strong tree of knowledge, changing how everyone saw the world. Their struggle became part of the very strength of their discovery. So, when we look back at these thinkers, we see more than just facts or theories. We see the lasting echo of courage. Their lives, and often their deaths, were not endings but fierce beginnings for the ideas they championed. Their sacrifices weren't in vain. They were the very heat that tempered a lasting legacy, showing us that some truths are too strong to ever be extinguished. The unseen hand of progress. Have you ever wondered why some good ideas take a long time to be accepted? It's like a quiet, hidden force guides us forward, a force we can't always see. This is the unseen hand of progress. It's not a literal hand. Instead, it's the silent, steady push of human thought and discovery, moving us inch by inch toward new understandings. For centuries, brave thinkers shared new ways of looking at the world. Sometimes, these ideas met fear or anger. People held on to old beliefs tightly. Change can feel scary. Many of these thinkers faced hardship, They were laughed at, exiled, or worse, just for suggesting something different. But here's the thing, even their suffering, their quiet courage, helped push that unseen hand. Their words and sacrifice were like tiny pebbles, slowly shifting the landscape of human knowledge. Think about how a small stream, over thousands of years, carves a deep canyon. You don't see it forming day by day. It's too slow. But each drop of water, each tiny piece of rock it carries away, adds up. Eventually, a mighty canyon stands there. Our ideas, our progress, work much the same way. Every scientist who questioned, every philosopher who sought truth, they were like those drops of water. Their efforts, sometimes unnoticed, build towards something huge for all of us. So, when we look back at those who struggled, who died for what they believed, it's easy to feel sad. And yes, it is sad. But their stories also remind us that nothing truly good is ever lost. Their legacy lives on, not always in grand monuments, but in the quiet, steady march of human understanding. It's in the knowledge we now have, the freedoms we cherish. They helped clear the path, even if they couldn't walk all the way down it. Their courage becomes part of the soil where new ideas grow, and that's why it matters. Their words, still guiding us. Have you ever thought about how a song from long ago can still make you feel something real today? Or how a story told by your grandparents keeps guiding you, even years later? It's a bit like that with the words of the thinkers we're learning about. Even when their lives ended long ago, their ideas didn't disappear. They stayed with us, living in books, in speeches, and in the very way we think and question the world around us. It's like their voices are still echoing, soft and clear, across the centuries. Think about the philosophers from ancient Greece. Like Plato, he wrote down ideas about what makes a good society, or what justice really means. And guess what? Thousands of years later, we still talk about those very same ideas. Their big questions became our big questions. Their search for truth became a path we can still walk on. These aren't just dusty old thoughts. They are foundations. They shaped how people thought about right and wrong, freedom, and even how governments should work, setting the stage for so much that came after. It's a lot like when someone you admire gives you truly important advice. Maybe a coach once told you, always play fair, even when no one is watching. Years later, when you're faced with a tough choice, that quiet voice in your head reminds you. Their wisdom, spoken perhaps only once, becomes a steady light inside you, guiding your actions. Their words become a part of you, helping you navigate your own journey. So, the words of these thinkers, who sometimes gave everything for their beliefs, they aren't just history. They are living whispers, gentle invitations to think deeper, to question bravely, and to feel more fully. They remind us that a powerful idea, a deeply felt truth, can live on forever. A quiet light showing us the way through our own uncertain times. They are still here, quietly, patiently, pulling us towards understanding. The hard road to discovery. Have you ever stopped to wonder what it truly takes to find something new? Not just finding your lost phone, but uncovering a deep truth about the world, or about people. Here's the thing, the path to real discovery is rarely straight or easy. It's often a hard road, filled with doubt and long stretches of darkness. It takes a certain kind of brave heart to walk it. Throughout history, countless thinkers have set out on this difficult journey. They weren't just curious. They felt a deep pull to understand things no one else had figured out. They questioned what everyone thought was true, and sometimes their new ideas went against what was comfortable, or what powerful people wanted to believe. So, these brave souls often walked a lonely path, far from the crowd, carrying a heavy burden of thought. Think about learning something really, really difficult. Maybe it's a new skill, like mastering a complicated piece on a musical instrument, or finally nailing a challenging move in sports. You practice, you mess up, you get frustrated, your fingers might ache, or your muscles might burn. You want to quit because it feels impossible. But then, after countless tries, something clicks. You understand it, you do it. That moment of breakthrough feels amazing, right? For the thinkers we're talking about, their breakthrough often came with even greater risk. They weren't just figuring out a skill for themselves. They were trying to prove a point about the very nature of reality, or how we should live. Their courage to seek, to question, and to stand by their truth, even when it hurt, truly changed the world. And that's why their difficult journeys, full of struggle and sacrifice, still light a path for us today. A final act of defiance. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to stand for something, even when everything around you pushes back? Picture a moment when a person's deeply held beliefs, their very understanding of truth, are put to the ultimate test. This is what we call a final act of defiance. It's not about fighting with fists or shouting loudly. It's a quiet, inner strength that refuses to bend. Here's the thing. Some thinkers, through history, reached a point where they had to choose. They could give up what they knew was true, or they could face the consequences, even death. Think about someone like Socrates, a long time ago. He taught people to question everything and think for themselves. When he was told to stop or face death, he didn't give in. He believed his ideas were too important, too true, to deny. So, he accepted his fate, letting his death stand as proof of his conviction. It's like when you know for sure that something is right inside your own head and heart. Maybe you see someone being unfair, and even if it's scary, you speak up. You don't do it to cause trouble, but because you just can't let that unfairness slide. That strong feeling, that deep belief in what's right, is what we're talking about. It's an unwavering stand. These thinkers, in their last moments, didn't back down. Their final act wasn't one of anger, but of incredible integrity. It was a silent, powerful choice that echoed through time. Their last breath became a whisper, carrying their truth out into the world. A truth they wouldn't betray, not even for life itself. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What truth would you hold onto so tightly that nothing could ever make you let it go? The ripples of their courage. Have you ever tossed a small stone into a calm pond? You see how the water moves outwards, right? Little circles grow bigger, reaching places far from where the stone first landed. That's a bit like the courage of the thinkers we've talked about. Their brave acts, their bold ideas, even their willingness to die for what they believed, didn't just stop with them. They created ripples. These aren't just stories from long ago. Think about someone like Galileo, who said the earth moved around the sun, even when powerful people wanted him to say otherwise. He faced huge pressure, but his ideas, his truth, slowly spread. Or remember Socrates, who chose to die rather than give up his quest for wisdom. His questions, his way of thinking, kept on influencing people for thousands of years. Here's the thing. These thinkers knew their message was bigger than their own lives. They weren't just fighting for themselves. They were standing for a truth, a way of seeing the world that they believed had to be known. So, here's how it works. Their courage passed from one person to the next, like a whisper carrying through time. It encouraged others to question, to seek, to stand up for what felt right. Think of it like a chain reaction. One person's bravery lights a spark in another, and then another. Maybe you've seen this in your own life. When someone in your class stands up for a new kid, it makes it easier for others to be kind to. That one brave act changes the feeling of the whole room. Their deaths, though sad, weren't failures. They were powerful, final statements that echoed through history. They helped ideas grow, even in the darkness. And that's why it matters to us today, because their courage still encourages us to think, to question, and to be brave in our own way. It reminds us that even a small act of truth can create waves that last forever. The weight of a vision. Have you ever felt like you saw something so clearly, something important that others just didn't get yet? Like you had a map to a hidden path, but no one believed it was real. That feeling, that quiet certainty, is a bit like what we mean by the weight of a vision. It's not just a passing thought. A vision is a deep knowing, a truth that feels settled in your bones. Imagine someone, long ago, who looked at the stars and truly knew the earth wasn't the center of everything, even when everyone else was sure it was. That knowledge wasn't light. It was heavy, a profound understanding that set them apart. For many thinkers throughout history, their visions weren't just ideas they wanted to share. They were like a burning ember inside them, a truth they had to speak, even if it meant great trouble. Think of a scientist who sees a new way that cells work, a pattern no one else has noticed. That vision becomes their whole focus. They feel a deep responsibility to show others because they know it's real. Here's the thing. Carrying such a vision can be a lonely journey. It's like being the only person who can see a specific color in a room full of people who only see black and white. You understand something profoundly that others don't, and that understanding can weigh on you. It can feel like a silent promise you've made to yourself and to the truth itself. So, the weight of a vision is that quiet, deep sense of knowing, and the profound responsibility that comes with it. It's the burden of seeing clearly, of holding on to a truth so tightly that it shapes who you are. And it reminds us how much courage it takes to simply see and then to speak what you see, even when the world isn't ready to listen. A promise made, a life kept. Have you ever really believed in something so deeply it became part of who you are? Not just saying it, but living it, every single day. Imagine a promise so important it shapes your whole life. This isn't just a promise spoken out loud. It's a quiet, powerful vow. You make it to yourself, to an idea, or to the truth you feel in your heart. For some thinkers, their lives became the clearest proof of their beliefs. They weren't just sharing ideas. Think of ancient philosophers. They chose to face their end rather than stop searching for wisdom. Or scientists who stood by their discoveries even when others refused to listen. Their integrity wasn't just a word. It was their breath, their choices, their path. Their life itself became the promise. Here's the thing. Keeping a promise, especially a big one, takes courage. It's like when you promise yourself you'll learn a new skill, like playing an instrument. It's not just the big performance that matters. It's the hours of practice. It's the mistakes you learn from. It's the days you want to quit, but keep going anyway. Each small step, each focused moment, is you keeping that promise to yourself. It slowly builds who you are. For these thinkers, that deep inner commitment was everything. Their passing, often in tough ways, wasn't just random. It was often the final, strong echo of a life lived exactly as they believed it should be. It shows how much weight a person's life can carry when they truly live what they believe. They weren't trying to find a specific end. They were just living their truth, and that truth led them where it did. A life lived fully, honestly, and with purpose, leaves a mark no ending can erase. It's a quiet story, told not just in words, but in every breath. The unbreakable chain of thought. Have you ever stopped to think about how ideas really work? Like, where do they truly come from? It's easy to imagine a brilliant person just suddenly having a huge discovery, right? But here's the thing. No idea, big or small, ever truly stands alone. Every single thought, every deep question, every new discovery is connected to something that came before it. Imagine it like a never-ending relay race. One runner carries the torch, runs their part, and then passes it smoothly to the next. This is the unbreakable chain of thought. It means what one person figured out, someone else could then build on, and then someone else could add to that. From the very first humans looking at the stars, trying to understand their patterns, to today's scientists launching incredible telescopes into deep space, it's all one long conversation across time. The ancient Greeks wondered about the world, and their questions sparked new thinking in Roman times, which then moved through the Renaissance, right up to our modern age. Each generation picks up a thread from the past and weaves it into something new and amazing. Think about something simple, like the light bulb. Did Thomas Edison just invent it out of nowhere? No way. He was building on centuries of work. People before him figured out how to make electricity, how different materials reacted to it, how to create a vacuum inside a glass bulb. Edison took all those pieces, all those earlier thoughts and experiments, and put them together in a brilliant new way. His mind connected the dots, but the dots were already there because of those who came before him. Because of him, we got better lights, which then led to new discoveries in everything from movies to computers. So, when we remember thinkers who truly pushed the world forward, sometimes even dying for their beliefs, we're not just remembering their individual ideas. We're remembering their crucial part in this endless relay race of knowledge. The torch they carried, that light never truly goes out. It gets passed on. It finds new hands, new minds, ready to carry it even further into the future. And that's why it matters. Every single one of us is part of this incredible, ongoing human story. Their story, a lantern in the dark. Think about the darkest night you've ever seen. What do you look for? A star, a distant light, anything that shows you the way. For hundreds of years, some people have acted like those lights. They stood for ideas, for truths, even when it meant facing the biggest challenges. Sometimes, it cost them everything, even their lives. They didn't just say something, they lived it. Their whole life became a strong statement about what they believed was true, a profound message whispered across time. This wasn't about being stubborn, It was about holding on to something precious, something that could help everyone see more. Clearly, they knew their ideas might not be popular or even safe, but they thought those ideas were so important they had to be shared, no matter the cost. It takes a quiet kind of courage to hold a candle when everyone else wants to stay in the dark. Imagine you're trying to find your way through a thick fog. It's hard to see, right? You feel lost, maybe a little scared. But then, maybe a single, steady light appears from a faraway house or a car. It doesn't clear the fog, but it shows you a direction, a hint of where to go. The people we'll talk about were like those lights. They didn't always solve every mystery, but they lit up paths others couldn't see, even if that light came from within themselves, shining against a world that preferred the dark and often pushed back. Their stories are not just sad endings, they are powerful beginnings for us. They remind us that standing up for truth, even in small ways, is a brave and necessary thing. When we look back at their lives, we're not just remembering people who died. We're seeing the enduring power of an idea, a flame that refuses to go out. Their quiet courage still burns, helping us to see our own way a little more clearly today. The cost of belief. Then and now, have you ever felt a truth so deeply in your heart, something you just knew was right, even when everyone else saw things differently? What would it feel like to stand by that truth, even if it meant being lonely, misunderstood, or worse? The cost of belief isn't just about money or simple choices. Sometimes, it means paying with your comfort, your reputation, or even your life itself. Long ago, when new ideas were scary and challenging, the powerful was dangerous thinkers who saw the world in a different way faced huge risks. Imagine being certain the earth spun around the sun, when everyone else insisted the sun moved around the earth. Picture the fear, the doubt from others, the quiet bravery it took to whisper that truth, or even shout it. Some chose to stay silent, to protect themselves, but many chose to speak, to share what they knew in their souls, even when it meant losing their freedom, their friends, or their very lives. They chose to light a candle in the darkness, knowing the flame might burn them. Think about it like this. Maybe you're on a team, and you have a different idea for how to win a game. Everyone else wants to stick to the old plan. It would be easy to just go along, but you truly believe your idea is better, fairer, or more exciting. If you speak up, it might feel awkward. Your friends might not get it, or they might even make fun of you. But if your idea helps the team, or if it feels like the right thing to do, that small act of standing firm has a cost, and it also has a quiet strength. Today, thankfully, it's rare for people to die for an idea in many places. But speaking your truth still has a cost. It might mean being misunderstood online, or feeling like an outsider in a group. It could mean people don't agree with you, or they try to silence your voice. But here's the thing, the bravery of those thinkers from the past, who paid such a high price, reminds us that some truths are worth fighting for. They teach us that seeing the world with your own eyes, and having the courage to share what you find, is a profound and important act. A quiet light that still shines for us today. A bold idea. A brave end. Have you ever thought about what it truly means to believe in something with your whole heart? Not just a little bit, but so deeply that it shapes how you see everything around you. And what if that belief, that deep feeling of what's true, went against what everyone else in the world thought? What if it was so different, so brave, that just speaking it aloud could lead to serious trouble? For a long time, across history, there have been certain thinkers who held on to ideas like this. They saw the world in a completely new way, like finding a hidden path no one else had noticed before. Maybe they believed the earth circled the sun, when everyone else was sure the sun circled the earth. Or perhaps they looked at old rules about how people should live together and saw unfairness, while others just saw tradition. These weren't just random thoughts. They were strong beliefs, ideas that felt right down to their bones. Here's the thing. Sometimes, when an idea is too big, too new, it can make people feel very uncomfortable. It shakes up the easy, usual ways things have always been. Imagine if you suddenly found a much better way to solve a math problem, but your teacher and classmates insisted you had to use the old, harder way. It would be tough to stick up for your new method, wouldn't it? It takes a special kind of bravery, a quiet strength, to hold on to your truth when everyone around you pushes back. Some of these thinkers, with their quiet certainty, kept sharing their ideas anyway. They didn't give up. They stood by what they knew was right, even if it meant being alone, or being judged, or even facing something much worse. Their lives became a powerful story, a real example of choosing truth over fitting in, and for some, standing so firmly meant facing the end of their lives. All just to prove one single, important point. It makes you think, doesn't it? What is the real cost of discovering a truth that's unpopular? What is the value of holding on to what you truly believe, even when the path is incredibly hard? These brave thinkers quietly remind us that some ideas are so strong, they echo through time, living on long after the voices that first spoke them are gone. Their courage lights a gentle path for us, showing the deep, lasting power of a truly bold idea. The echoes of a stand. Have you ever felt something so deeply, so certainly, that it settled in your bones? What would you do if holding on to that truth meant facing something really hard? Throughout history, some people believed so strongly in an idea that their lives became living proof. They took a stand, not always with swords, but with quiet words or brave actions. And that stand, for some, cost them everything, even their last breath. It might seem like a heavy thought, but here's the thing: many basic ideas we now accept as normal, like fairness or using science to understand the world, were once considered dangerous. Powerful people, old traditions, or common beliefs often pushed back hard against anyone who dared to think differently. So, when a thinker chose to speak a new truth, they weren't just sharing an opinion, they were challenging the whole world. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing a game and see someone cheating. Your gut tells you it's wrong. Even if speaking up makes things awkward, you decide to say something. That quiet courage, that choice for what's right, is a small, everyday echo of what these thinkers did. Or, imagine someone inventing something new, something everyone says is impossible, but they keep working to prove it. The stand these thinkers made was massive. It was about facing down fear and doubt, choosing to believe in an idea more than in their own safety. And the powerful, hopeful idea is this: even when a person is gone, the stand they took, their brave choice, doesn't just vanish, it leaves behind an echo. It's like a stone dropped in a calm lake. The stone is gone, but the ripples keep spreading outward, touching new shores. These echoes are their ideas, their courage, their questions, continuing through time. They whisper to us across centuries, inviting us to listen, to think, and maybe even to make our own stands. Their echoes truly live on. The price of being right too soon. Have you ever known something was true, deep down, but everyone around you just wouldn't believe it? Maybe they even laughed at you. Here's the thing: sometimes, people discover important truths long before the rest of the world is ready to accept them. This is the price of being right too soon. It's not about being wrong. It's about being so far ahead that your ideas seem crazy to others. Think about someone like Galileo. He looked at the stars and saw the Earth wasn't the center of everything, but orbited the sun. Today, we know this is true. But back then, saying such a thing was against what everyone believed, especially the powerful church. He was put on trial and spent his last years under house arrest. His discovery, which we now teach in schools, cost him his freedom. His truth was too early for his time, and he paid a heavy price. It's like when you have a brilliant idea for a school project, maybe a new way to solve a math problem, or a really creative story idea. You tell your friends, and they just don't get it. They might even say it's silly. You feel alone, maybe even a little silly yourself. But then, months, or even years later, someone else suggests a similar idea, and suddenly, everyone thinks it's amazing. That's a tiny echo of what these thinkers faced. They saw the future, but they were in the present. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it mean to hold a truth that no one else can see? It takes immense courage, a quiet strength. It teaches us that truth doesn't always arrive with a loud cheer. Sometimes, it whispers softly, waiting patiently for the world to catch up. And those who whisper first, they often walk a lonely path. But their whispers eventually become the shouts of a new generation. A legacy of unyielding hope. Have you ever wondered what keeps someone going, even when everything seems lost? When the world turns against them, it's a quiet, powerful force. Unyielding hope. It's not just wishing for good things. It's a deep belief that what you stand for, what you believe is true, will one day shine through, no matter the cost. Imagine a seed buried in dark soil. It can't see the sun, but knows it's meant to grow. That's the hope these thinkers carried. They faced persecution, prison, and death for daring to think differently. Yet, they held on to this hope. They knew their ideas, like tiny seeds, would eventually sprout. They wanted a future of truth and freedom for everyone. Think about people. Throughout history, Socrates, for example, drank poison rather than abandon his search for truth. He believed his ideas would inspire, even in death. Consider scientists ridiculed for new discoveries. They kept working, knowing their findings would be proven right. Their hope wasn't just for them. It was for knowledge and justice for everyone. It's like when you're solving a tough puzzle or learning a hard skill. Like a new instrument, you make mistakes, you get frustrated. But there's this little voice inside that tells you to keep trying. You believe you can get it, even when it feels impossible. That's a tiny spark of unyielding hope. It pushes you past the struggle, towards understanding or success. So the legacy of these thinkers isn't just about what they died for, it's about what they lived for, a hopeful vision of a better world. They remind us that even in great darkness, a single, unyielding belief in truth or kindness can light a path forward. Their hope didn't die with them. It became a quiet echo, guiding us still. The silent martyrs of truth. Have you ever wondered how someone could die, not in a battle, but simply for an idea? Not with a sword, but with a quiet, stubborn belief. That's what we talk about when we speak of the silent martyrs of truth. These are thinkers, wise souls who, by simply holding on to what they believed was real or right, faced really tough consequences. They weren't trying to be famous heroes, but their deep honesty and dedication to truth often made them stand alone. They didn't start loud fights. Instead, they held a quiet, firm idea that challenged the entire world around them. Think about how hard it can be just to say something unpopular to your friends, something everyone else disagrees with. Now, imagine saying that same unpopular thing to an entire country, a powerful government, or even a huge church organization. For hundreds of years, most people just accepted certain beliefs without question. If you dared to ask why, or offered a new way of seeing the world, maybe about how the stars moved, or how our bodies worked, or what makes a society truly fair, it could be incredibly risky. Some of these wise people paid the highest price, not in a loud shouting argument, but in a quiet, firm stand that cost them everything. Their lives ended because their thoughts were too big for the world they lived in, too honest for the times. It's a bit like knowing a secret, a completely true fact that everyone else around you thinks is wrong. Imagine you see a cool magic trick, and you understand exactly how the simple science behind it works, but everyone else insists it's real, unexplained magic. If you tried to explain the truth, some people might get really upset, maybe even punish you for ruining their wonder. These brave thinkers believed in their shortcut to understanding the universe or humanity, even when it meant standing against the traditional method or beliefs of their time. So, when we remember these people, it's not just about sad endings, it's about a deep, quiet strength that still echoes. It's about understanding that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do isn't to fight or shout, but to simply think for yourself and believe in what you honestly know is true, even when it feels like no one else does. Their stories are a gentle reminder that the journey for truth, even when it's lonely, leaves a lasting mark on the world, inspiring countless others. Their silence in death speaks volumes. Their sacrifice, a guiding star. Have you ever wondered why someone would give up everything, even their life, for an idea? It's a heavy thought, isn't it? But here's the thing. For some people, their final moments weren't an ending. Their sacrifice wasn't just a loss. It became a guiding star, shining brightly across time for everyone else. Think about it like this. Imagine a night with no lights, just darkness. Then, far off, you see a single star. It might be tiny, barely visible, but it shows you a direction. That's what these thinkers did. They weren't trying to be heroes. They were just seeking truth, pushing against ideas that held people back. Sometimes, society wasn't ready. Their beliefs challenged powerful people, making their path incredibly dangerous. Consider someone like Socrates. He lived thousands of years ago, a philosopher in ancient Greece. He questioned everything, urging people to think for themselves. His ideas made some uncomfortable. He was put on trial and chose to die rather than stop searching for truth. His choice, his ultimate sacrifice, didn't make his words disappear. Instead, it made them echo louder. inspiring countless others throughout history to also question and seek knowledge. It's like when a scientist tries an experiment, and it fails, and then it fails again. Each failure might seem like a loss, but it teaches them something crucial. It narrows down the possibilities. Eventually, someone else, maybe years later, uses those failed attempts to finally succeed. The person who failed paved the way. Their struggle, their sacrifice of effort, was essential for the breakthrough. So, when we look back at these thinkers, their stories aren't just tales of sadness, they are powerful reminders. They show us the value of courage, the strength of an idea, and how one person's deep conviction can light up the path for generations. Their lives, and how they ended, ask us what truths we value enough to stand for. They remind us to look closer, to question, and to always seek our own guiding stars. The thread of courage through time. Have you ever thought about courage? Not as a sudden, loud burst, but as something quieter, older than time itself. Imagine it like a thin, shimmering thread. This thread isn't just in the big stories we hear. It weaves through centuries, connecting people who stood up for what they believed in, even when it was incredibly hard, even when it meant risking everything. This isn't just about physical strength or fighting big battles. This is about the quiet, brave act of holding on to an idea, a truth, when the world around you wanted you to let it go. It's about thinkers, scientists, writers, and philosophers. They chose to speak their minds, to share what they saw as true, even when that truth was unpopular or dangerous. They knew it might cost them everything, but they still felt they had to share it, for the sake of what they believed. From ancient times, to the dusty scrolls of the past, right up to moments not so long ago, people have faced this same choice. They weren't always fighting a war. Sometimes, their battle was with an old idea, or with powerful people who didn't want things to change. Here's the thing. Have you ever been working on a really tricky math problem, and you just know you have the right answer, even though everyone else in your group thinks you're wrong? It takes courage to stick with your own thinking, to calmly explain why you believe what you do, instead of just going along with the group. That quiet confidence, that steady belief in your own understanding, is the same kind of courage. That quiet, steady belief is the courage that binds these thinkers together. It's the strength to follow a thought to its very end, no matter where it leads. It's the bravery to say, this is what I understand to be true, even if it puts you at odds with the world. So, when we look back at these lives, we see more than just sad endings. We see this golden thread stretching through time. It reminds us that conviction, a deep belief in something important, is a powerful force, and it asks us to consider, what truths do we hold that are worth standing for, even when it's hard. It shows us that courage isn't just a sudden brave moment, but often a long, quiet, steady choice, a final bow to principle. Have you ever wondered what people think about when everything is on the line? When they face the ultimate choice, what truth whispers loudest in their heart? We're talking about those rare souls who, when pushed to the very edge, chose to stand firm for an idea, a belief, or a principle, even if it cost them their life. It's like a final, unwavering act of trust in something bigger than themselves. Here's the thing. This isn't about being stubborn or just wanting to be right. It's a deep, quiet conviction. Think about thinkers from history who saw the world in a new way, like Galileo, who believed the Earth orbited the Sun. Powerful people told him he was wrong, and his life became very difficult because of what he knew to be true. He faced serious trouble for his ideas. That kind of commitment, that willingness to stick with truth, even when it's unpopular or dangerous, is what we mean. It's a choice made when a person's inner compass points clearly, and they just can't turn away. It's a lot like when you know something is unfair, and you speak up, even if it means standing alone. Maybe your friends want to do something you know is wrong, like cheat on a test, and you just can't bring yourself to do it. You might feel scared or worried about what your friends will say, but a deeper feeling tells you to do what's right. That quiet strength inside you, that's a small echo of this huge idea. It's choosing your own belief system over what's easy or popular. So, when we look at these thinkers who passed away because they stood for something, we're not just seeing sadness, we're seeing the amazing power of ideas. We see how much a single person can believe in something, and how that belief can last a long, long time, even after they are gone. Their stories teach us that sometimes the quietest decisions can make the loudest difference in history. And maybe, just maybe, it inspires us to think about what principles we value most in our own lives. The deep roots of change. Have you ever wondered how one person's single idea, perhaps even a quiet thought, can slowly change the world? It seems impossible, like a tiny seed trying to push through solid rock. But true change, the kind that lasts, rarely happens fast. It's not a sudden burst. Instead, it's like a root growing deep, hidden beneath the surface, slowly reshaping the ground. Think about ideas we take for granted today. Things like everyone having a voice, or that fairness matters more than power. These weren't always obvious. For centuries, many believed kings ruled because God chose them, or that some lives were worth less than others. Brave thinkers planted different seeds. They spoke of equality, of reason, of rights for all humans. Often, their ideas landed on very rocky ground. Many of those thinkers, the ones in this series, never saw their ideas fully bloom. They faced hardship, even death, for daring to think differently. But their words, their challenges, didn't vanish. They seeped into the soil of human thought, like slow, steady rain. One person heard it, then another. A whisper became a quiet hum, then a song sung by many. Imagine a single drop of water falling on a mountain. It seems like nothing, right? Just one tiny drop. But over millions of years, countless drops follow, each doing its small part. Together, they carve canyons so deep you can barely see the bottom. That's how ideas work. Each thinker was a drop. They started a flow, a current of thought that kept moving, growing stronger, carving new paths for humanity long after they were gone. So, when we think of these lives, we're not just remembering sacrifices. We're seeing the enduring power of a single thought, a deep root reaching across time. It reminds us that even the smallest act of truth can become part of something monumental, shaping the very air we breathe today. The lessons carved in stone. Have you ever wondered what truly lasts? What sticks around after someone is gone, especially if they gave everything for what they believed? We're talking about thinkers who died proving a point. But what happens to that point? It doesn't just vanish. It becomes something solid, something we can build on. It's like an ancient story, etched into stone walls, meant to be remembered. Think about people from long ago who stood up for what was right. Maybe they fought for fairness, or for brave new ideas about how the world works. Sometimes, they faced big trouble, even giving their lives for those beliefs. But the truth they found, the message they carried, didn't disappear. It slowly became part of what we all know, part of our shared human story. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike. Maybe your friend, while learning before you, fell and scraped their knee badly because they turned too sharply. That simple, painful lesson, don't turn too sharply, becomes a strong warning for you. It's like it's carved into your memory. For these deep thinkers, their ultimate sacrifice etched their most important truths into how we understand the world. These aren't just ideas in old books. They're like strong foundations for how we think and live. So, when we remember those who died proving a point, we're not just thinking of a sad ending. We're looking at the lasting gifts they left for us. Their courage, their search for what is real, their willingness to stand firm. It all adds up to lessons that are truly carved in stone. They offer us a quiet strength, a reminder that some truths are worth everything, and those truths continue to guide us long after their voices fell silent. A voice from beyond the veil. Have you ever wondered if someone's words, or their big ideas, can still matter even after they're gone? It's a strange thought, isn't it? But here's the thing, sometimes a person's impact doesn't end when their life does. Their voice, in a way, just keeps going. This is what we mean by a voice from beyond the veil. It's not spooky or magical. It's about how someone's beliefs, their wisdom, or the stand they took for something important can echo through time. Their impact keeps spreading. Think about ancient Greek thinkers. Their ideas about how we should live or how the world works are still talked about today. They aren't here anymore, but their thoughts are. They guide us. They make us question things. It's a bit like when you learn a really important lesson from someone you admire, maybe a coach, an older family member, or a favorite teacher. Even if that person isn't around anymore, perhaps they moved away or passed on, the lesson they taught you stays with you. You remember their words when you face a tough choice. You think of their example when you need courage. That memory, that wisdom, is their voice still speaking to you, So these thinkers who died proving a point had a commitment to truth or justice so strong, it became bigger than their own lives. Their dedication created a lasting message. This message keeps speaking to us. It's like a quiet but powerful whisper from history, reminding us what it means to truly believe in something and live by it. Their journey ended, but their truth keeps shining. The unending quest for understanding. Why do we keep searching? Why do we endlessly chase what we don't know? It's a quiet question, one that echoes through history, through every human heart. From the moment we first looked up at the stars, or wondered why leaves fell, we began this quest. It's not just about finding answers, it's about the very act of seeking. For thousands of years, people have wrestled with the biggest questions. What is truth? What does it mean to be good? Where do we come from? Thinkers in ancient Greece, long before electricity, pondered the nature of reality. They wrote down thoughts, argued, and tried to make sense of their world. Later, scientists like Galileo looked through telescopes, challenging old ideas, even when it was dangerous. They felt this deep pull, this need to understand. Here's the thing. It's a bit like trying to solve a really tricky puzzle. You pick up a piece, turn it over, try to fit it. It doesn't work. You try another spot. You might get frustrated, but you don't give up. That feeling, that itch to see the full picture, that's a tiny echo of the huge drive that pushed these thinkers. They felt it for the very fabric of existence. They spent their lives trying to fit the universe's pieces together, and sometimes, finding a truth meant facing great difficulties. This journey of understanding, this deep human need to know, it connects us all. It reminds us that asking questions, even the hard ones, is a brave and beautiful thing to do. It shows us that simply wondering, simply looking closer, is a huge part of what makes us human.